With that, I will call to order the Thursday, November 6th College Township Council Meeting. And before we get started, I'm asking everyone who can stand to stand, and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Before we move into the meeting, two announcements. One, College Township Council, this body, met in executive session earlier tonight, right before this meeting, to discuss three items, all allowed under the Sunshine Law: personnel, real estate, and legal. Second announcement is slight change in tonight's agenda, at least the order. Consent agenda. Those three items under consent agenda will be taken up immediately after our second of our two special presentations. So the first order, when we get there, the order of the agenda items will be special presentations, consent agenda, and then we will get into plans and follow the agenda as currently outlined. Okay, so that takes us to public open discussion. This is the opportunity for anybody in the room or anyone online to address council on anything that's not already on tonight's agenda. Looking online first, looking for any digital hands being raised. Not seeing any, I'll go to the room. Looks like we have somebody here in the room.
Good evening.
Just ask you to identify yourself, your municipality of residence, and...
Yes, sir. My name is Michael Wisman. I live over in Hauserville at the corner of Rock Trout and Hauserville Road. I was told I'd have 20 minutes tonight because it was a slow meeting. No, I'm sorry. Read the room wrong.
You could have been told anything.
Yeah, no. So we just retired in there. I have 26 years active duty. My wife's teaching over at Penn State. I'm working over there. We have a property that...
I'm sorry. Is that what that's the...
Yes, sorry. The slide that's right for you guys ahead of you. You can probably recognize the red and white barn from a while ago, right? And we turned that property around, bought it, I think, in 2017 before my last deployment. We've settled in the area. Next slide, if I could. I'm requesting in that area a reduction in the speed limit, as well as some hidden driveway signs and potentially a guardrail. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about us here. I already told you, we're also involved in scouting here. I volunteered at Center Lifelink, which was a heck of a night. I think Chief's in the room. Last Friday night, Halloween, was an amazing and a very busy night, right? And we had great parties in Bellefonte and Pleasant Gap as well, but it was a really busy night. So I'm volunteering over there. I've got a son who's an Eagle Scout. I got a daughter who says her stated goal is to make Eagle Scout before him. We try to do some things around the community as well. Next slide. There's the overview of the property in case you're not familiar with the area. Next slide. All right. And I'm pretty sure this is the back of Mark's jacket, but I can't swear to it. So as you can see here, as you travel down Rock Road from the Benner Township area, and that's still College Township right there on that road, you can see where vehicles have in the past left the roadway, went into the trees as well. I know Walk told me way back in the day had pulled a vehicle out of there as well, as my neighbor had told me before he passed away 2 years ago. It is a tight turn. If you go to the next slide, please. So what we're requesting is a reduction in speed limit from 35 there and potentially a hidden driveway sign. Next slide, please. Because it looks just like this if you guys are familiar at the bottom of the orchard. These two pictures are in essence the same here. And it drops to 15 miles an hour around that blind curve, and it's got the hidden driveway sign. Next slide, please. As you turn the curve there, you can see the abutment sort of coming out. When that vegetation's there, you can't see any vehicles coming down that road. All right. The house that's there is built on the foundation of the barn that was already pre-existing there. So if we keep going, next slide, please. You see my wife there. The corner of that building is approximately 6 feet from the road. Now, Mark was really gracious. He allowed me to build sort of this rock wall to make sure we keep people from hitting that building because it's so close to the road. But if you're trying to pull out, you can almost see, if you're looking at that building on the left side, as you nose out, I really have to go halfway across the road, stop, wait 3 or 4 seconds, make sure there's no traffic, and then continue out. Next slide, please. So we're asking for a hidden driveway sign at the bottom there, as well as one at the top. a reduction in the speed limit in that area, and potentially a guardrail. If a guardrail is not in the cards, maybe something that would protect the property, whether that be some rocks or something else that will keep vehicles from entering that blue line and potentially hitting the structure. So try to keep it short. I know you have a ton of presentations tonight, so but I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Well, I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Michael Wisman, sir.
What was the last name?
Wisman.
Wisman, okay.
Like wise man, 2 S's, 2 N's. I've been called work, so that's all right. 26 years.
Well, you won't hear, that's for sure. As long as you have the podium, this is normally just a one-way communication, but as long as you have the podium, anybody have questions or comments?
No, the only comment that I would have is we can certainly have the township engineer look into potential for speed reduction. That usually requires a speed study that the engineer is capable of doing, and we've done that many times at various locations. So we can do that. I don't think that the request for the hidden driveway sign is going to be particularly difficult, given the circumstances. Amy?
Yeah, the only thing is, I don't think it was intended to show it being on the stop sign, but it can't be on the stop sign. It'd have to be its own post.
Okay.
It cannot be.
But I think that those are some reasonable requests. I do not know if we're going to have the latitude as far as reducing the speed, but again, that's kind of what the whole speed study is intended to try to identify. But we can move forward with that. But certainly, I think at a minimum, I believe that the hidden driveway signs are things that can be done relatively soon. And with respect to the guardrail, some of that will depend on the outcome related to the speed study. The first thing I need to figure out is whether or not whose road that is.
It's ours.
Right.
Oh, it is.
It is ours.
Okay. All right. So that makes it a little easier. If it was a PennDOT road, that becomes a little more of a heavier lift. But yeah, I think these are things that we can at least begin to address on your behalf.
Oh, thank you. And just, from a maintenance perspective, that hill, it's icy in the winter. The town does an excellent job. I'm sure that it's probably, hey, here's the stop sign. We know most of College Township's this way. And better townships up the hill over there for that. They still always make an effort to go up that hill and clear that. So, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Anybody else? Looking again online. Public open discussion. All right, then we will move to new agenda items. Opportunity first for council members to request items to be added to tonight's or future agenda. Looking to my right, looking to my left. Any requests from the public for consideration of an agenda item to be added to tonight's agenda or future agenda? Looking online, looking in the room, not seeing any. And that takes us to page 2 of our agenda, which is special presentations. Tonight we have 2. The first one is SP1, University Area Joint Authority's annual update. I see Mr. Lipinski approaching the podium.
Hello, I'm David Lipinski. I currently serve as chair of the University Area Joint Authority, as a representative of College Township, and I live in Hauserville. So,
And there's somebody with you tonight?
yes, the newest member who's representing, Jan, and you can come up and introduce yourself.
You didn't think you were going to get away with it?
I was hoping to get away with just sitting there. I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Jan Ulbrich, and thank you for appointing me. It's been an interesting experience. I've now learned which way the stuff flows. So it's a start.
We're hopeful it always flows in the same direction. Again, thank you for the opportunity to present to council and to the community. University Area Joint Authority is graced with a wonderful group of people working, and we have good stability within the organization, and that stability helps us keep rates down and protect the environment. In fact, we're one of the few sewage authorities or any municipal authority where people are trying to get jobs with us rather than we have to go out searching. And that's a testament to the fact that we treat our people well, and we have a very positive atmosphere there. And we do that in order to do our 2 points, to safeguard the environment and the people, and also to try to keep our costs down. And it's been generally a good year. We have had increases in the past, and there's some coming forward. I'll talk about them a little bit. But from a local perspective, one of the main things that's happening right now is the Millbrook Marsh. There's a study going on about the possible need to expand the amount of sewage capacity through it. It's a 537 plan. It's going through different reviews. This is caused, in a sense, because of the potential greater amount of sewage coming down from the State College Borough. So looking down the road to avoid what we call surcharging. We're looking at different options for that, which range from going all the way around Millbrook Marsh to doing some changing in there. We're very sensitive to the fact of that is a pristine area, and we don't want to degrade it in any way, shape, or form. So that's still in review and comments among the Center County, the Center Region municipalities, and it's going back and forth, and eventually it'll go to DEP. So that's probably the next major project we're going to have to deal with. And again, I don't know which option we're going to go forward on that. But what we are doing right now, and what is the construction, is a really unique project that we are basically rebuilding a large part of our plant. And we're doing that for a couple reasons. This is, you might say, the back end. How do we handle the sludge after we process and that? And we're doing that for a couple reasons. Number one, what we've been doing for over 20 years, the composting system. See, our intent is not to send it to landfill. We want to recycle it the best we can. The compost system we've used for many years was breaking down. It was old, the equipment was old, there were different issues, so we were looking a couple years ago, how do we keep things moving? And we're going to go to a system that's basically going to generate income for the authority. What we're doing is digesting, which we have to do that, and produce natural gas. It's called biogas. It's a green gas that we'll be able to basically, in a sense, utilize for our own use there. We can actually put it into the system as a green gas. Now to do that, we have to have new equipment. It's several $1 million. But the cost is amortized in point, but the fact that we're going to lower our own utility. The other thing we're in that as part of this whole system is in discussion with the Center County Solid Waste Authority that they're going to start sending their food waste rather to a landfill. They're going to send it to our sewage system. We're going to digest that as part of our system, produce gas, lower our cost. The Solid Waste Authority will pay for us to do that service, but what they'll be paying us is less than what they would have to send it to a landfill. And again, the less in a landfill, the better for the environment. And there's some other options there. So again, we're expanding what we do, and it is, to be quite honest, pretty unique in Pennsylvania and in the nation in some of the stuff we're doing. And that process will start coming online next year, or at least portions of it and all that. So this is municipal agreements with different organizations and that, and the intent is we're able to do this and still maintain a proper effluent, stay in compliance, and not raise the rates on our people. So that's a major project. If the council or any members of the council or the staff would like a tour of the facilities, if you contact Corey, he's quite willing to set up a time to go there. The board actually did one last month, and it was hard hats and vests, but we were up there for about 2.5 hours walking around. So it's availability to you if you want. That's the major change there. We continue to do upgrades. We continue to go out looking for infiltration and inflow to cut down extreme waste, extra waste. That's going on. One of the other things that we've been in a process the last couple of years is evaluating our rate structure, which has been in place for over 25 years, or actually 35 years, of what traditionally is called an EDU system. And there were some questions asked, is that the fairest way and the best way? Some of them were raised by businesses, some by individuals, some by members of our board. And over the last 2.5 years, we've had a rate study done, and we continue to try to evaluate what's the best thing to keep our system running well and to have consistency in what we're doing. Because our biggest thing is we have to have a consistent income coming in. That's one of the main reasons you follow what's called an EDU system, because you know what you're going to get. But there are ways of adapting that. We've not come to a consensus on making any changes yet. One of our main concerns is we make some changes where some people pay less, other people are going to have to pay more. It's a zero-sum game, and we have to balance that there. But still being sensitive, there's probably some special situations that need particular attention. This review has also found places where, with no disrespect, we've been underbilling some people. And we're making that up at this point in time. So that's what we've been building, that's what we've been looking at. I can't go into any details about it. We still have a legal situation with the borough on the amount of money that we've charged them, and they have chosen not to pay it. We've done mediation with them. We've done a negotiation. It's now up to the courts to make some sort of decision. The next time we're in the courts is in February. And again, that's about the limit I can discuss on that matter at this time. Hopefully this can be solved. Part of the reason we've had increases recently is if the borough did not pay what we budgeted for them, so we had some shortfalls. We were always able to cover our expenses, but part of what we were using were our reserves that we have to keep a particular level because of bonding and that there. So it wasn't like our checks wouldn't clear, it was just you have to keep your reserves strong. So that's basically where we're at. System's running well. We've not had any significant problems with EPA or DEP on our effluent. We are in the process of doing some studies to see how we can improve our operation in that. And we continue to try to do the best we can to keep our costs reasonable, at the same time to keep the environment safe. One thing that did happen recently, we've had a solar project. We actually have two out there. The first one we did, we've got to the point where we can buy it. I think you understand that most of these projects, you're in an agreement where you're buying the electricity from the developer. Well, the first half is now we just buy the electricity for ourselves. We bought out them, and we'll do that with the second one. So there are days in the summer where we're self-generating at this point. So that's where we're at. I thought myself and Jan would be quite willing to answer any questions that you might have on this matter.
Well, let's go to that. Rich?
No, appreciate, UAJ definitely leads the way on so many projects, so appreciate your keeping College Township's interest in Spectre on that.
And thank you for your support.
Susan?
No questions. Thank you for the service that you're doing, and thank you for the report today. It was very helpful.
Tracy?
Yeah, I do have
Yes, ma'am.
excuse me, my voice is going, but I just had a question about the biogas that you were talking about. Like how, I know you said that was like millions of dollars. How are you guys looking to fund that?
Well, we're borrowing the money to do it, and part of the project built to amortize it back is the income that can come from it. We're going to produce the gas, and please don't, we need a certain amount of gas to heat system. We're going to be buying, we're going to be buying gas from Columbia at one rate, and what we're generating, Columbia is going to buy from us at a higher rate, because it's, as a green product, as a biogas there, groups that want to have green credits will do that. So we're going to, as things go well, we'll be able to produce enough gas to run the entire system. And that's part of the idea, because to do the digestion, to make the gas, you have to heat the system. So it's kind of there. But the energy we put into it, it'll be less than the energy we're getting out of it. And that idea is also with the food waste. Now the Center County Solid Waste Authority has to put in systems to be able to do the separation and all that, and then they'll bring it over to us, and we will then treat it. And that agreement, actually, just our last meeting, we were going over that again and again, just to make sure that both sides understand what we're doing. There's other sewage authorities, by the way, that want to contract with us to bring their solid waste to us, that we could process, then get the gas off of, and they don't have to send to landfill also. So that's part of where we're at.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Dave, you mentioned the tour. You remember a while back, years back, COG did a lunch and learn, and I think they followed, part of that was tours, just a thought that that might be a more efficient way to accommodate tours. If other municipalities are being offered them is to bring everybody in for.
I can't speak to what my fellow board members are saying, but we've certainly always made that offer. I only have one suggestion. Do it soon. It's cold up on that hill.
All right, Dave, thank you again. I say this every year for your many years of service and commitment. Thank you, Jan, for bringing your breadth of experience and background and lending it to us to help here. So,
My last comment is, with Jan coming on, as we've had others, they ask questions that half of us already know. We know, makes us have to go over, not so much to be retrained, but to remember that other people looking at it with fresh eyes ask questions that we just don't worry about anymore. But they bring up good points by asking those questions. And again, thank you for your time and the opportunity to present. Be well. Any
Thanks.
other questions, just send it to the authority and we'll get it back to you.
all right. That concludes our first special presentation. That takes us to our second special presentation, which is the State College Borough Police Annual Update. Does staff have anything to start off with before we hand it over to Chief Gardner?
No, nothing specific. This is our annual opportunity to review the past year and make plans for the coming budget year.
Okay. Chief, were you going to take us, we have a PowerPoint. Did you have anything to add to that, or?
No, if you have any, are you going to run it?
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna run for you.
Well, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to come out here. Depending on your viewpoint, how you feel, this is my last presentation, as I'm going to be retiring at the end of the year, so you may clap with joy or whatever. But seriously, I've enjoyed my time here. It went by way too fast. I've been here 35 years, and it just went by in a blink of an eye. Although Mark can probably attest to this, there were some midnight shifts I worked as a young officer that seemed like they were 35 years long. So, but it's been nothing but a joy working where I've worked. The opportunity to work in the townships was a welcome respite from some of the downtown issues we have to deal with. But going to Harrison colleges, and I think most of our officers feel that way too. In fact, not most of them, they all feel that way. So it's been a real pleasure. So I have a budget presentation here tonight that goes beyond just numbers and arrests. And I talk about this all the time. You need to know as a township what you're paying for, what your money's going for, and the type of people that are working for you and the services we can provide. So without any further ado, we'll start here. It starts off with a mission statement, which I'm not going to read. The next slide will boil it down to the 3 key points I think we need to do, if you could go there. And that is being committed to being responsive to our community. Our mission is to improve the quality of life through a community partnership, and we endeavor to identify and reduce citizens' concerns regarding criminal activity, neighborhood deterioration, and continual nuisances. The quality of life issues are just as important as the crime issues and that, so we take that very seriously. This is our mission statement, or our vision statement, that I think it's important that we continually remind ourselves this is why we do the things we do, that we're committed to the highest standards of professional ethics, exceptional performance, and a pursuit of excellence in everything we do. And we're committed to the principles of community-oriented policing and to being the most progressive, innovative, and professional police department in all of our endeavors. And I think as we go through this presentation, you'll see what I'm talking about. Next, please. These are our core values. This is what the expectations are. This is what enables us to do the things we do. I think honors the top one there is we must lead exemplary lives both on and off duty. As a police officer, there is no I was off duty, I can do this. No, it's not that. We have to do the right things for the right reasons all the time, not just some of the time, not just when the spotlight's shining on you, but you have to do them all the time. Respect, I think we have to give high regard to every individual we encounter and respect their dignity, because everybody has dignity. Professionalism, we have to be professional in all of our actions, our behaviors, and our performance. Accountable, we have an obligation to be responsible for our actions and the people we serve. And that includes our families and taking care of those as well. So honesty and integrity, being impartial, ethical, and moral in all of our interactions. That's the key right there. with honesty and integrity. Integrity is one of those things that if you lose it, it's gone forever. And we preach that all the time. And I think that's an important thing for people to understand. You can overcome a lot of things, but if the trust and the honesty and integrity is gone, you never get that back. And in wellness, basically taking care of ourselves, our coworkers, and our families, because if we're not well, we can't serve the public we've been sworn up to protect. So just a little bit there, I think it's important to highlight those. Next, please. This is our organizational chart. It might be a little hard to read. I'm not even going to attempt to read those, but that's how we're breakdown. We have 4 patrol platoons. There's 2 daylight patrols and 2 night shift patrols, and that's how they're staffed. But I think it's important. This breaks down a little bit the makeup of our departments. So we're authorized 60 sworn officers. We're currently at 57 right now. As we're down 3, we're actively trying to fill those vacancies. And I'll go on a little bit about that in later slides here. So, but basically 77% of our officers have a college degree and 16% have a master's degree. 25% of our people are military veterans. 57% of the veterans have a college degree. 11 of our 15 supervisors have at least a bachelor's degree, and 4 have master's degrees. 6 administrators and supervisors have command school training like FBI National Academy or Northwestern School of Command. 16% of the officers are female, 17% of detectives are female, and 11% of our officers are of color, African American, Hispanic, Native American, and Pacific Islander. So I say 16% of our officers are female. We have 9 current females right now. We have 1 starting in January that's going to go into an academy. So 10 of our 60 complement are females. We've worked very hard to do that. When I first came here, we had two females in the police department. So we've worked hard there. We have 2 female detectives. And so I think that's important to highlight that we want to provide opportunities for underrepresented groups, and females being one of them in law enforcement. So, very important. Next slide, please. These are some of our goals and objectives. We want to reduce crime through crime prevention initiatives, crime control by swift apprehension and prosecution and punishment of offenders. We want to practice restorative justice initiatives that benefit the victim and the offender, promoting traffic safety by identifying high crash locations and conducting speed surveys and enforcement. Mental health support initiatives that are responsive to the needs of the community. It's becoming ever increasingly important to do those things because on a daily basis our officers are dealing with people in crisis 4, 5, 6 times a day. There's never a day goes by that we aren't dealing with somebody that's in crisis. So providing substantive community engagement, community education programs, including youth programs, and recruiting and retaining quality employees, which is more difficult than it's ever been, but we've got to keep striving to do that. So, next slide, please. These are just some of the collaborations and partnerships that we deal with, not to be an all-inclusive list, but just some of the ones that we routinely work with. I probably can't even read those from here. So. I'm not going to, but there are other ones as well that are not on this list, but we have a community anti-threat team, a domestic violence and sexual assault task force. All of our detectives in the area from all the departments, they meet monthly to share case information across the region so that everybody knows what's going on. We do the same thing with the chiefs of police and representatives from the district attorney's office, probation, and the jail, and what have you. We meet monthly to also talk about issues of mutual concern to everyone. So there's that give and take, that spirit of collaboration and cooperation, which makes this area really good and safe to live in. Next slide here. These are just some of the things that that impacted probably in the township here. We had the Citizens Police Academy, where we had 24 individuals, I think, take part in that. It's ever increasing. Just an opportunity for our citizens to interact with police, learn a little bit about the profession, get to experience some things they wouldn't normally experience, and it's been nothing but positive factor. We also had Night to Shine, a multicultural fair. We did child safety seat check events, the career days at the schools, vacation Bible school presentation at State College Access Church, Fourth Fest, Special Olympic Sports Run, school safety presentations, National Night Out, Center County Triad, Coffee with a Cup, which we did have some people from College Township come up and share with us a little bit. And we appreciate that. Lion Bash, the school checks, and Christ Community Church concert. So those are just some of the things that we spent time on. Again, not an all-inclusive list, but just wanted to bring home the point again that law enforcement is much more than just writing speeding tickets or arresting people. There's a lot put on our officers, and they enjoy doing these things. So, next. These are just some of the trainings and professional developments that we accomplished in 2025. The one at the top of the list is something, a motor carrier safety assistance program, or MIXAP. That was heavy trucks inspections, which we haven't had since the retirement of Mamelin, and you did it for a while too, yeah. And Robbie Keene used to do it. Officer Austin Sipes is now fully trained, which means he can go out on the expressway. We can pull over trucks and do inspections. I will say during his training, they pulled over a truck in the last week that was 15,000 pounds overweight, had faulty brakes, and the driver didn't have a CDL license. So that's pretty scary when you think that's the kind of stuff that's traveling on our roadways here. So we're going to be more active with that, and we'll do some things in conjunction with the state police who will come and do those things with us. But we're real excited about having a certified officer again to be able to do that. Again, we continue to be committed to crisis intervention team. Just some of the other things, I'm not going to read them all. You can see them there. We're pretty active in a lot of things. We have a bomb technician who works with the Penn State bomb team, that when we get suspicious packages, whether it would be here at the township building or anywhere else, they can respond and do it in a safe manner and just dispose of that item. Just a whole host of things there. Like I said, you can see that we put a lot of money, time, and effort into making sure our people have the best training and be able to do the jobs that we all expect of them. So, next slide, please. There's just a little bit more of what we've done. EVOC training, which is emergency vehicle operation. We do that out at the CPI building, of course, out there. We do have, I think I mentioned this before, RAP, which is a virtual reality training system that we can actually put officers in a virtual world, and they're experiencing things. It's like it's live, you're really doing it. So it puts them in all kinds of situations. People acting like it could be, it's not just shoot, don't shoot scenarios, but it's training officers to use their mind and things and negotiate and be able to de-escalate and what have you. So we invested in that, and it's been really, really good to have. And then some upcoming ones, we have the PA DUI Association Annual Conference. This year, Officer Corey Cooper, from our department, is being recognized as a Top Gun officer for making the most DUI arrests. So we're excited about that. We have some interview and interrogation upcoming training, and then there's also a training protecting kids in the digital age, which we're really starting to see a lot more of those things, and it's just some things we'll pick up and be able to take back and deal with our public and the schools to let them know some of the things that we can do to help combat that issue. Next. And then these are just some of the symposiums and conferences that we attended in 2025. We're an accredited police agency, so we have that annual conference right there. We're in the midst right now. Next year, we're going to be looking to be recertified for the 6th time. We have the National and Pennsylvania School Resource Officer Conferences. So all our school resource officers go to a national conference and then a state one, so that they keep up on the latest trends and laws in the schools. We're really committed to that, and they do an excellent job. National and Pennsylvania Social Worker Conferences, we partake in these every year. Hostage and crisis negotiation seminar. We have dedicated hostage negotiators and crisis negotiators that can come out and when say we have something like a barricaded gunman or just somebody that we need to negotiate with, and if it takes hours, we take hours to do it. So these are individuals who are specially trained, and they'll oftentimes respond with our tactical response team. So just a nice thing to have here in the time of crisis. And one of the precipitating events for that, both the tactical response team and crisis negotiating was the result of when this building was being built, if you remember, 30 years ago or whatever, 32 years ago. Yeah, so and we had a serious incident there. So that was the impetus for a lot of the things we started after that. So, and then the annual PA Chiefs Conference, Police Conference. So, next slide, please. And then these are just some of the trainings and conferences that we have scheduled for this year. Again, I'm not going to read them all. You have them in your presentation package. If you have any questions about any of them as we move through this, please do, or you can save them to the end or whatever. But one of the things I do want to highlight is we're moving to a new records management system. We have selected, we're in a consortium with Penn State, Patton, and Ferguson Township, and we're moving from our old Spillman system to a company called Pro Phoenix. We're probably going to be the next year, all of 26, getting that fully implemented and up and running. And as a result of that, we're going to, instead of filing the Uniform Crime Report or UCR reports, they're moving to a system called NIBRS, which is the National Incident-Based Reporting System. It'll make things more uniform across the nation. So a lot of change there. Next slide, please. Again, this is just illustrating more conferences and trainings we're going to have coming to the year. Just some of the ones I do want to highlight is the End Violence Against Women International Sexual Assault Conference. We have a drug recognition expert and Officer Toothman who can, on DUI stops, can not only look for alcohol impaired but also drug impaired, and he's specially trained to do that. Next, please. And then these are just some of the grants we completed and renewed. Obviously, the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency grant for a second police social worker, which is now a care specialist. We have one social worker who is a designated social worker, and we hired a second one who is not a social worker but has a master's degree, and she's a care specialist. And she started in, I believe, June or July. So we have two now working with the department. We continue to be funded through our Victim-Centered Intensive Case Management, or VCICM grant. That's a grant we've had since 2006 that we provide, victim services, and we have a specific detective that does nothing but investigate and domestic violence cases, and that not only for the department, but they do that countywide as well too. So. We have the U.S. Department of Justice Stop Grant Violence Against Women. That grant renewed. We've had that for years, and we have a specific detective that is assigned to do nothing but investigate sexual assault against women. So that. Then we have the PCCD grant for technology improvements for a new surveillance camera system downtown and a new records management system, which I alluded to. The cameras downtown are being replaced. That project is almost done. And the images we're getting from those cameras are like nothing we've ever seen before, so we're hoping that's going to make the downtown a lot safer and allow for more efficient follow-up when we get photos like that. So it's important. And the records management system, as I alluded to earlier, is something that should be fully operational by the end of next year. So, and then we continue to get our DUI, pedestrian aggressive driving, and seatbelt enforcement grants. And then Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board the SIP, or the Source Investigation Project grant, which enables us, and basically is that when we're trying to keep alcohol out of minors' hands, and when we do run into that, it enables us to spend funds to track, if we find, track the source, that will track where that youth or that underage gets alcohol, we track it back to the source for follow-up and prosecution there. So. Next. Some of the things that, again, there's change on the horizon, obviously retirements and resignations. You see my name up there. Assistant Chief Matt Wilson's leaving as well. He's moving on to another position, which I don't think's been announced yet, but it's probably the worst kept secret in the area. He's moving on to another police department to assume the chief's duties there. And I don't want to spoil anybody's thunder because I don't think there's been an official announcement about it yet. So I won't say anything about that.
Well, there is now.
I didn't say where though, did I? And then Lieutenant Kelly Aston retired, and she's now with the State College School District in the athletic department in some capacity. Detective Brian Lennig left us after 7 years. He's now with Homeland Security. He's in the academy in Glencoe, Georgia. And then Zach Christ left to take a position with another police department. So wanted to recognize those individuals and just let you know that one thing you can count on, there's always going to be change and people moving on, and we wish all of them well in their new endeavors there. So we say goodbye to them. These are some of the new people you're going to see around a little bit. These three individuals pictured here are Cadets Lucas Barr, Christopher Conkey, and Austin Crespo. They're currently at IUP attending the Municipal Police Academy, and they're going to graduate, I believe it's November 24th. So we'll have them back. We just hired 3 more cadets. Camden Node, who was an intern with us several years back, Samuel Bradley Smith and Bridget Peasley. They'll start the same academy in January of 26. So, and then Dylan McCloskey, he's currently at the Mansfield Academy. He was putting himself through. We just offered him, and he accepted a position. He'll graduate on the 21st of November. So, all told, when November and December roll around, we're going to have 6 new officers in field training. So that's going to be quite hectic there. But we are, at one point we were down 10 officers, now we're down 3. So we're making progress that way. So, but I think it's important to recognize these individuals, and we thank them for wanting to make their career with State College Police. Next, please. And then the civilian police employees, I talked about Jess Rodriguez. She was hired as a police care specialist as part of the social work unit. Her primary focus will be on the juvenile population and working to build strong collaborations with children and youth services, the Youth Service Bureau, the schools, and other agencies that provide services to juveniles. She'll be joining the multidisciplinary investigative team on child abuse and the Center for Alternative Justice, the Youth Aid Panel. And then Ryan McAvoy is a recent Penn State grad, and he joined the records room as a technician, and he's fitting right in there. So we wanted to welcome them aboard as well. So this is just, again, the mission of the State College Police Social Work Program and what we want to do here: enhance public safety and well-being by addressing the underlying social, behavioral, and mental health needs that contribute to crime, crisis, or victimization. For years, our officers were doing all these things, and they did a fabulous job, but simply didn't have enough time. And sometimes people in crisis don't want to see a uniform either, so we recognize that. So that's one of the things that's taken the burden off of our officers, but they're also more, these social workers are also more in a position to do the follow-up that really needs to be done, because that's where they're really beneficial to us, is the follow-up, making sure people are getting to appointments, making sure people are taking meds, making sure whatever, whether it's food or housing needs they have, they can work with our social service agencies to make that happen. They also support officer wellness for the department's sworn personnel. And that's a piece that I think doesn't get recognized enough as it is, because officers also have their own issues in that, and I think it's another place they can go to when they feel that they need it. And basically, this is reduce the system strain by reducing police contacts and connecting individuals to appropriate social service, which I talked about just a minute ago. So, and then we want to integrate and practice a trauma-informed response to victims, families, and vulnerable individuals. So, just some of the things that. Next, please. So, this is for so far in 2025, there have been 330 referrals that Amanda and Jessica have dealt with this year alone. And then since the inception of the social worker program in 22, there have been 1,713 referrals. That's a lot. Yeah. And they invest a lot of time. This isn't just 15 minutes here or 20 minutes here. They're investing a lot of time and effort into these. So that's just some numbers behind the program here. This next slide, I think in 24 and 25 to date, There were 488 referrals from the State College Police Department to the Center County Crisis Intervention Team Coordinator, which is Tracy Small. She's housed with the county now. And every time we go out on a call and there's an element of mental health or whatever, our officers fill out what we call the CIT data sheet. And that gets forwarded to the county team coordinator. So one of the goals of social work was to try to deflect or divert people away from arrest. So what this slide tells you is of the 488 that we dealt with, only 10 people were subjected to arrest or incarcerated. That's like 2%. So I think the social work program is having the desired effect that we wanted to see here. So, but we'll continue doing it. So I think that's very important. It's impressive, I think. So, next slide. This is a little bit about who receives services by our social worker. The top left there is by township and borough. You can see the borough has the most referrals, followed by College Township and then Harris. The other three slides are specific to College Township that will show you some demographics there about race, gender, and age that we deal with there. So if you have any questions about them, you can ask them. But it just gives you the breakdown there of what we're dealing with here. Next slide, please. And then just some of the accomplishments of 2025, we want to recognize Brian Foster, Lieutenant Brian. He received the Crisis Intervention Team CIT Officer of the Year Award for an incident he dealt with where he was he had to negotiate with somebody who had a gun in a car, and it took a lot of time, but he ended up getting that individual to leave the car and put the gun in the car. So he did a tremendous job there, and he was recognized for that. As I stated earlier, Officer Cooper Ryder was selected for Pennsylvania DUI Association's Top Gun Award. We've established an improved protocol for hazing complaints and integrating PSU student conduct with our detectives, so that hazing complaints have been on the rise, and we have a more concerted effort now to try to address those. I talked about we selected a new vendor for new records management system, which is ProPhoenix. We conducted testing for police cadets and established an eligibility list. We started the supervisory promotion process for lieutenant and sergeant. And Officer Josh Dietz was selected as the new domestic violence detective, and Officer Amy Williams was selected as the new juvenile detective. So just some of the accomplishments we wanted to make you all aware of here. Again, some more. We had the annual Citizens Police Academy, Center County Camp Cadet, where we had 46 girls and 48 boys partake in that. The Citizens Police Academy, like I said, we had 24 attendees over 8 weeks. And then obviously the annual Special Olympics torch run. Next. And then these are just some notable investigations and events that impacted College Township. Juvenile arrested for aggravated assault against an AD nurse at the hospital. 3 teens charged with stealing vehicles from the school district. College Township man arrested on several PFA violations and stalking charges. A College Township man arrested for intimidation of witnesses or victims on the obstruction of administration of law related to a stalking case. And a Belleville man arrested for stalking and harassment inside a College Township business, and a missing juvenile in College Township is located and returned. So, next one is calls for service. As you can see there, you did have a slight bump in 2024 to 2025. That's primarily due, because this includes all traffic stuff, that's primarily due to the Clover Road thing. And I did send you the stats for those, and we did have them. So we ended up, spending some time there, and we did have some citations, more warnings than citations, but we did issue some citations too. But that's what that bump is about right there. So, any questions about any of that? All right, next. And then these are just the Part 1 and the Part 2 crimes. This is from January 1 through 31st of December in 2024, as you can see. The primary, the Part 1 crimes are the more serious crimes. Those are crimes against people. And your assault is probably 46, and then thefts are 78, I believe. And then Basically, overall, pretty safe in the township. You can move on next. And this is from January through August of this year. So, again, you're just seeing theft and assault. Disorderly conduct down below, and then any questions on any of those?
Yeah, we'll circle back to questions when you're done.
This is our crime data for here, if you have any questions on that, but this is where they're clustered. They've been offset a little bit so you don't, you can't pinpoint where the address is, so, but the big things here, the highest numbers were disorderly conduct, theft, and fraud, forgery. Interesting things, the age ranges here for most of these, for those crimes were, the biggest demographic that we dealt with was 6 individuals in the 56 to 65 age range. These are for assaults. And the next one was, believe it or not, 75 to 85. So, but this just gives you, you can see where all these crimes, they're clustered in, certain areas there, so. Next one. And then the enforcement programs, as I mentioned earlier, Officer Sipes is trained in motor carrier safety to enforce commercial truck violations. You'll probably see him out here a lot more in the coming year. We conducted 1,624 traffic stops. This is up from 1,527 stops in the previous year. Speed sentry data collection and compliance enhancement, radar speed signs, strategic traffic enforcement plan step. We identified the top locations of target enforcement actions. And then the aggressive driving grant provides manpower staffing to target specific violations. And then there's the breakdown of what we did at Clover Road there. 21 citations and 34 warnings. Over 90 hours was spent on that enforcement during that period that road was marked as such. So, and then this shouldn't be a surprise anyway. These are the locations where we have the most issues with traffic violations. And the violations, it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, are all moving violations like speeding, traffic control signals and yield signs, and then illegal passing and speeding. So that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Those are the areas where we're going to continue to focus on and try to make sure that we can get people to slow down. And if they don't want to slow down, they're going to be cited. So next slide, and this is just a breakdown of the crash information here. So the total crashes is 341. That's up 12 from the previous year. Reportable crashes, they're up 2. And again, the definition of reportable crash is any injury, no matter how slight, or if a vehicle can't be driven from the scene under its own power, has to be towed. That makes it a PennDOT reportable crash. And then the injury crashes, we had 59. That's up 4 from the previous year. DUI-related crash, we had 5. That's down 5, which is a good thing. We're trending the right way there. And then we had 0 fatalities. That's down 2 from the previous year. And crashes involving bicycles was 2, and crashes involving pedestrians 2. And then aggressive, like no surprise here, aggressive driving violations continue to be the top crash contributors, like falling too close to safe speeds and red light violations. Next, this just shows you where we plotted where the crashes are occurring. So, and it shouldn't be any surprise there. The high crash areas are Benner Pike near Walmart. There are 60 there. Atherton and Branch is 42. At College at the bypass is 25, and College Houserville and Pike is 13. So that gives you an indication where all the crashes are occurring. And that's not surprising data there with the volume of traffic in those areas. This is then the proposed township hours and rates. We're proposing 265 hours like it's always been for the past couple of years, and that the rate would be $141.16 per hour, and then the premium rate is $169.40, which we hope we never have to get to. So, That's it. That's what I have. So thank you so much. I'll take any questions you might have. Hopefully I'll be able to answer.
All right, well, let's do this. Questions first on the PowerPoint presentation, everything except the very last slide with the rates, and then we'll deal with the letter from Chief with the recommended hours after that. Tracy, any questions, comments on the presentation?
No, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
This is my second time going through it here. It was very thorough, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Susan?
No questions. I was looking at the crime data. It looks pretty stable. You made the recommendation for the same number of hours, and looking at the comparison, I know one is a half year, the other is the full year. But no, there were just a couple of things. I've had some interactions in the last year, in particular with Officer Abramson. She was at the YMCA at Trunk or Treat. She's been at other events that I've been at, and she's great to see out in the community. She has great relationships with a lot of the organizations, and she's a real asset. So it's a pleasure to see her out there.
Thank you for saying that. I know she'll appreciate that. I'll be sure to tell her.
Yeah, please do.
She does a phenomenal job.
Yeah, she does, and it's getting better every year. And then I also wanted to, commend Ms. Mitten and her work. To see the reduction in people who are being incarcerated when they're in crisis has to have something to do with her program and her work.
Absolutely.
And I noticed that she had 330 referrals, and that's more than one a day. So if she's carrying a caseload, she's getting more than one case a day, plus carrying the case over. So I would imagine at this point she's probably pretty busy, and that might be the reason for hiring the case management specialist. But I work in healthcare, and every year we see more and more the need for case management. And it's really a shame when we see people in crisis who actually are incarcerated or arrested for something that really could have been resolved with great case management. So I really appreciate that.
Unfortunately, for years, that's the only alternative we
Right.
had, was to criminalize it. And
Right.
it seems so wrong to do that. But in order to get somebody to help, that's what we had to do. And nobody wants to do that. And I think both our ladies now are doing a
Right.
phenomenal job.
Well, and that's a real culture change. That's
It
changing
is.
people's thinking, and taking care of people who have mental illnesses. Being able to see that, particularly in law enforcement, is really heartening.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And the thing that is about that too is one of the biggest, hardest sells was selling it to the officers
Yeah.
as well, because they have to see value in something like that.
Right.
And now if you were to pull all those officers that say, we don't want to work without these ladies.
Yeah.
Well, and kudos to her. She was the pioneer. So
Yep.
she was the first person here, and I'm sure there were challenges early on.
There
So
were.
really, really appreciate that. So yeah, those are my comments, and thank you for all your years of service. There was one last thing I did want to mention. Years ago, I had a child who was just a month out from being licensed to drive, and one of the officers ticketed her on 322. She was going very fast, and she was treated very respectfully. It was a good experience. It was early on in her driving career. She's not been ticketed since. I wrote you a thank you note, and you wrote me back. So, yeah, I felt like it was the essence of community
Well, thank you.
policing, and I think she's a much better driver, and I really, really appreciated that, still do.
Well, that's all we want, is
Yep.
if we can redirect somebody,
Yep.
whether it be whether they're in crisis or whether correct their driving habits so that they don't get themselves, and that's what it's all about.
That wasn't gonna
Like
end
I
well.
said, I think as a police chief, we're more than just citations and
Yeah.
arrests. We have to be, the communities we police, so thank you very much for those
Thank
kind
you.
words.
Rich?
Don't make it too tough, Rich.
Not in the least. We've done this together a couple
Yeah,
times.
yes.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
Thank you as well.
We'll miss you.
It's been a pleasure, like I said, serving all the years I did, but especially coming to this body and presenting every year. I've always been well received here. Our officers love coming down here and policing, and I just hope they can continue to provide the level of service you all expect. And we appreciate that.
Yeah, while you're still up there, Chief, or Adam, let's move to the letter from the chief on the hours. Anything to add to that? Or?
No, I think the chief captured most of this on one of his last slides. But essentially, just as a refresher, First off, just to say, Chief, it's been a pleasure to work with you these years. And we've worked closely when we've needed to, and we've stayed out of each other's way.
When we needed to.
So it's worked out very
Yes.
well. But you will be missed.
Thank you.
That said, just to do some recap here, essentially, the township doesn't dictate patrol schedules and things of that nature, right? We work, basically leave the professionals to do the professional work as far as policing. But we do communicate back and forth in terms of trying to manage hours where we have the opportunity and when it becomes necessary. But in that vein, we've been carrying approximately 265 hours of service prior to the COVID situation. During COVID, we did do a downturn, but those are for financial reasons. But I'm very pleased to say that we're now back up to our 265 now for several years. And I'm very comfortable with the level of service that's being proposed, and also in terms of the rate. Of course, everyone sees the numbers that are on the page and they pop off, but I will tell you that the value that we receive as College Township for the relationship that we have and the contract that we have with the State College Police Department is by far the best value that anyone receives anywhere in the Center region for any municipal service.
I appreciate that.
So I'm very comfortable with what has been presented to you tonight.
That sounds like a recommendation. So, questions for Adam on the chief's proposal? None? No? Well, I think, given that the chief has asked for a response before our next council meeting, it would be appropriate then for the chair to entertain a motion to authorize the manager to enter into and execute an agreement with the State College Borough Police for the hours at the rate outlined in the chief's letter dated October 24th, 2025.
So moved.
I have a motion, and I think I have a second over here. Discussion? This is an action item, so I need to open the floor for comments. Discussion. Katie, can you see if there's anybody online that may want to address council on this action?
I don't see anybody. Yeah, no, yeah, I have it, and there,
Nobody? Okay. So any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chief, we met your deadline, right?
You did.
Okay.
You always do.
I'm going to ask a favor of you, one last favor of you, after 35 years, and that is to stick around at the podium for just another minute or two. Can you do that for us?
Sure, I will.
Okay. That concludes our two presentations. That takes us to tonight's consent agenda. Remember, we revised the order of the agenda so that we're moving in the consent agenda. And for expediency, the chair will remove CA2F, CA2J, and both items under CA3, A and B, for further discussion. And is there any other items someone would like to pull before the chair entertains a motion to accept the remainder of the consent agenda?
Did you pull J?
Yeah, I'm pulling F, J, and then both A and B.
Yeah.
Anybody want to talk about any other ones? All right, then the chair will accept the motion to accept the consent agenda minus those four items as presented.
So moved.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, comments from the public? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that takes care of most of the consent agenda, and I would like to draw our attention to, what item was it now?
CA3B.
I'm sorry, CA3B. Chief, you're close by, right? Okay. CA3B. Chief, along with Rich, you know, I've been around the entire 35 years. And along with the community, the department has had to adapt to some pretty profound changes in the community. And not only have they done that, but they've thrived during that time period. And circling back to some of Susan's comments, particularly in these last half dozen years or so, under your leadership, they've led, so they've adapted, thrived, and led. And I think that's so commendable. And so given that, it personally gives me great pleasure to read into the record tonight item CA3B, which is a proclamation. It's proclamation P-25-05, College Township, Center County, Pennsylvania. Proclamation in recognition of John F. Gardner, who dedicated an exceptional service to the State College Borough and the townships of College and Harris. Whereas Chief John F. Gardner commenced his employment with State College Borough on August 13th, 1990, and whereas Chief Gardner was promoted to corporal on July 1st, 1996, where he served in the Patrol Division as an Assistant Patrol Platoon Supervisor and then Platoon Supervisor. He was then promoted to Sergeant on September 26, 1999, where he served in the Patrol Division and then as Sergeant in charge of the Detective Division. He was then promoted to Lieutenant on July 19, 2006, and served as the commander of the Patrol Division responsible for the Uniform Patrol Division and the Traffic Section. And whereas Chief Gardner was promoted to Captain, and as the rank of Captain was also given the title Assistant Chief of Police on January 1st, 2012, where he oversaw the Detective and Records Division. He was officially promoted to Chief on September 1st, 2016, and the rank and position he currently serves, and whereas Chief Gardner has also served as Field Training Officer, Bike Patrol Officer, and Background Investigator, and he has successfully completed the Police Executive Leadership and Command Program at the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of College, County of Center, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, at its regular meeting of November 6, 2025, does hereby extend its sincerest gratitude, respect, and appreciation to Chief Gardner for his 35 years of dedicated service to the Center region, and be it further resolved that his actions shall enter into the permanent records of the College Township Council, and that this proclamation shall serve as evidence that College Township hereby expresses its gratitude for Chief Gardner's decades of commitment to College Township, and be it further resolved that Chief Gardner be presented with this proclamation duly approved by the Council of Township of College this 6th day of November 2025, signed by both the Township Manager and myself. And at this point, I'm going to ask our zoning officer, Mark Grabasic.
I have the pleasure, been designated by council to present this to you. I got to work with Officer Gardner, and I got to work under Corporal and Sergeant Gardner. And oddly enough, most of his time in patrol, we worked the same shifts. So I've had a pleasure to work with him quite a bit. I am honored to present you with the proclamation in frame. Thank you so much. You get a package of College Township swag. I've worked here 10 years and I don't have half of this.
I'm sure they're good. I just want to say thank you so much. This is really nice of you. It's a way to top off a career. I've got mixed emotions. I know it's time to go, but it's like anything else. This has been a part of my life for over half my life, well over half my life. And the thing of it is it's always been about what's best for the community. It's about service and things like that, and it's doing things for the right reasons all of the time. And it's been such a joy and a pleasure to work with people like you and everyone else I've encountered. And I just know I've always tried to look for the things in life, with an attitude of gratitude. It's easy to find things to complain and moan about, and it takes more time the energy spent dealing with that, and then just to find, even if it's just, hey, I'm grateful that I was able to get out of bed this morning. You know what I mean? I mean, just find something like that. And if that's one of the things I can impart on our young officers and our young people, is that focus on the positive things, really. And life will go much smoother for you. It really will. So again, I appreciate this recognition honor. I wasn't expecting it, but thank you so much. It doesn't surprise me that you folks did this, because you're just decent and great people out here, and we appreciate it. So thank you very much. And I won't be a stranger. I'm not going anywhere. My kids are rooted into the community, so we're not going anywhere. I'd have a rough time dragging my wife out of this community anyhow. So, but I appreciate it, and thank you so much. And I just look forward to a partnership with College Township and State College Police for many years to come. So thank you again. I
And
appreciate it.
we do too, and I need you to do us one last favor, and that request the council to join me in the group picture.
Can you hold up your
Oh, sure.
so I get a picture with you and Mark for it?
Yeah.
How are you?
That's why I tried to get it, you guys get like real quick. All right, you too. All right. And then-
What's the best backdrop for
I don't know, do you guys want to go up there?
Chief, can you come up here and get on one of our police boards?
Good plug.
Where do you want us right now? I used to bunk there.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll
Okay,
balance it out a
perfect.
little bit.
Go ahead, Rich. Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, Adam, do you want a picture with you?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Sure, that would be great.
All right.
Thank you.
You got it.
All right, Chief, you're off the hook.
I'm going before you think of anything else.
All right. That concludes both of our special presentations tonight and our consent agenda. That takes us back on schedule. We're on plans. Tonight we have one plan.
You pulled a lot of consent
Oh,
agenda. When are you gonna go? When do you wanna do it?
All right, we have three more items under the consent agenda that I asked to pull. The first, let's go in order here. CA2 Correspondence F, letter from CAP signatory dated August 21st, 2025 regarding anti-poverty initiatives. Susan, did you want to talk on that one?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
This was a
find
letter
it.
from Sultan.
Yeah, sorry, I'm struggling to open it up. Yeah, this was, no, that's not
You
it.
need, I have a copy of it if you.
No, I'm just having a hard time finding it in my list. Okay, there it is, got it. Something weird is happening, but here we go. Okay, yeah, no, this was a letter that came in, it looks like from the clinicians and administrative staff up at CAPS, and they're highlighting the impact of poverty in our community. And I pulled it tonight to call attention to it, really, not necessarily to ask for any action, but I thought it was an important thought-out letter, and I thought it was something that should be pulled and just discussed, because there is poverty in our community. This aligns with what we've seen from the Adult Services Bureau when they come and they share their count of the homeless in the winter. And I mentioned earlier today, I know Out of the Cold is dealing with more people who need housing and shelter during Code Blues, and there may be things like Code Reds in the future. So there are things happening in our community, and I think that the clinical staff did a good job letting us know about that. And so wanted to bring that up.
All right, well, I appreciate that. And I asked to pull J for a similar reason, and that I ran into Alice, is it Allison?
Elaine?
Elaine, I'm
Elaine.
sorry. And I received a personal invitation for council to tour the facility, so I just wanted to see if there was any interest amongst this group here, and we'll have staff reach out and connect with her. We'll figure out a time that works best, but she seemed to indicate later in the day or evening, not during the times that it's busiest, would be best for her. So I'm seeing nods around the table. So So maybe staff could reach out to her, see, maybe get a couple of dates, and we'll see if one of those can work for us. Okay, and then the last item is the CA3A, the 2026 proposed council meeting schedule. I just wanted to give everyone one last chance to comment on that or discuss it. I did forward a copy of it to Gretchen just to make sure that she was in the loop as far as the schedule goes. We follow a similar pattern every year. I personally didn't see any conflicts there. Anybody else? If not, then the chair will entertain a motion to accept those remaining four consent agenda items if we include the proclamation for the chief. Do I have that motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Discussion? Questions, comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now, remaining consent agenda items accepted and adopted. And now we can move to plans, of which tonight we have one. Sam's Club Preliminary Final Land Development Plan. Lindsay, are you gonna?
I am, yeah. I want to apologize for being late. I was at the CRPC meeting earlier talking about the PAM Health Development of Regional Impact. So, but tonight in front of you, you have the Sam's Club Preliminary Final Land Development Plan. Next slide, please. Just an overview of the plan. This is located at 381 Benner Pike, Sam's Club. The tax parcel is 192B093. The total tract is 34 acres. The owner is Walmart Stores. The zoning is currently general commercial. Prior to the submission of this plan, we met with some representatives from Sam's Club to discuss plan elements and the process as we move forward. So the next slide is just an overview of where we're located here. And the following slide are just some highlights from the plan. So the purpose of the project is to improve the traffic flow at the existing Sam's Club fuel station. They're relocating some curbed islands, trees, and there's a water quality unit that has been installed there that is also being removed, or not removed, but replaced and relocated. And they're also maintaining their current number of parking spaces. That was one of the big discussions we had with them early on, was that if they're taking away so many, they have to replace them somewhere. So the goal of the improvements, of course, is to reduce the traffic congestion by extending the queuing lanes. Traffic's expected to move more efficiently, and they're trying to minimize those backups that you get when you come into the Sam's Club parking area. The next slide is just a comparison of what exists now and what is proposed. So you can see the gray hashed areas are all of the places that are going to be demoed, dug up, and then to the right, you can see those improvements that will be made. They're also, on the next slide, adding some landscaping. They are removing about 11 trees, I believe, and replacing them with 15 trees. So the landscaping will be a little bit more robust in this area once they're all finished. The Planning Commission saw this at their last meeting, and some of the concerns they had were queuing throughout, and they noted that if it's not working that well and it continues to obstruct traffic, the owner should consider a one-way, converting the traffic aisle to a one-way lane. And then they also requested that since the parking is going to be on the side of the building where folks may not want to park, they suggested that may be an employees-only parking area, or to put a cart return in the area too, just to kind of keep things tidy there on the site. So with that, just a brief overview, and if you have any questions, I'm here to answer those for you.
Nobody from Sam's?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure who is online at this point.
I'm online.
Oh, okay.
To discuss the plans. We did the development of the plans, so yeah, I'm here for any questions as well.
Okay, if you could just introduce yourself and then feel free to add anything to Lindsay's comments before we open it up for questions and comments.
Yeah, my name is Jared Hutchison. I'm working on behalf of Dean L. Carlson, the designer for this one. We're the civil consultant for Sam's on this project, and so we're tasked with going throughout doing the designs and everything, and presenting these plans to you guys. And I don't have anything to add. Well, actually, that parking on the side, we did make that change internally just the other day to devote that area to associate parking only. Just because if we did add a cart return to the current design, we'd lose one stall. So I guess to kind of just momentarily, I mean, if you guys want to add a cart corral return on that side and maintain that as a customer area, we can do that as well. But for now, we just put it as associate parking, since it is kind of the corner that's further away from the front entrance. So it just made sense to have it devoted to associate parking. But that's all I have to add at this time. And if you guys have any questions, I'm here to assist with that as well.
Okay, thank you. It seems like you addressed number 2 under the Planning Commission comments, because that was an or. Any comment then, before we open it up to council, on the Planning Commission's other request? It's simply a request to monitor. Which I think you would be doing anyways, because you're obviously monitoring it if you are coming into us with this plan, because anybody monitoring this situation will realize this needs to be done. So, all right, questions for the developer or for Lindsay? To the left. All right. We have a recommended motion here. As long as Matt is here, did the recommended motion accurately capture any, okay, I'm seeing noddings there. We do have a recommended motion then from staff that includes those 2 Planning Commission recommendations. I suppose we could drop that one as if it's shown on the, although it's not shown on the plan, right?
No, not that we've seen yet.
Yeah. So, I mean, do we really need to require a note on the plan to confirm that, or? I think if they've already signed it,
Yeah, I think if they noted it at a public meeting, I think we should be okay.
So we could drop that condition?
I would say so.
All right. Does anyone feel comfortable moving the said motion?
I'll make the motion. I recommend council move to approve the Sam's Club preliminary final land development plan dated September 19th, 2025, and last revised October 9th, 2025, subject to the following conditions. 1, within 90 days from the date of approval by council, all conditions must be satisfied. Final signatures must be obtained, and the plan must be recorded with the Center County Recorder of Deeds office. Failure to meet the 90-day recordation time requirement will render the plan null and void. 2, pay all outstanding review fees. 3, address to the satisfaction of the township engineer any outstanding plan review comments. 4, fully comply with College Township Code Section 180-12. 5, post surety is approved by the township engineer prior to recording. I think we're excluding 6 and 7, correct?
Well, at least 7.
Okay, 7. 6, property owners should monitor fuel station queuing throughout the year post-construction. If queuing continues to obstruct traffic, the owner should consider converting the traffic aisle to one-way lane. And 7, all conditions must be accepted in writing within 7 days from the date of the conditional approval letter from the township engineer.
All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Any comments from the public before council considers action on the motion? I will say that I do appreciate the property owner taking this action as someone who's frequently caught in the gridlock caused by the queue. All right, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
That concludes our first item, or that concludes our only plan tonight, and that takes us to reports. We have a manager's report in tonight's packet. Anything the manager would like to add on top of that?
The only thing that I would draw your attention to is the item regarding the Dale Summit Area Plan Form-Based Code. Council should be considering identifying a date for an additional, or I should say another, joint meeting with the Planning Commission for the purposes of conversing about progress that's been made to date. I think that staff would agree that we're pleased with where we're at and where we've come from. It's taken a while, but I think that the time is right for consideration of such a meeting. So with council's approval, we'll work internally here to get some dates, possible dates for a meeting out to both parties to select that and get that underway.
Any objection? Are we thinking mid to late November? I mean, we have a December?
That may be difficult. And December may be difficult as well. We'll continue to review. We've contemplated a couple of different dates. But to be frank, it looks like it will actually probably fall into to January.
Okay. All right. Questions for the manager on the manager's report? If not, we'll move to COG Regional, County, and Liaison reports. Quick count here, we did not have any COG Regional committees, meetings since our last, other than potentially land use. Rich, did I miss one?
Parks governance.
Oh, Parks governance, okay.
Yeah, but I spoke to that at COG,
At
General Forum.
Forum.
So.
Okay, so that takes us to county and liaison reports. Anything from anybody on any of those? If not, we'll move to staff, PC, and other committee reports. Matt, you're here, been patiently waiting for almost 2 hours. Anything to talk to us about on PC? Hour and a half.
Well, briefly, we didn't meet last night. About 6 years ago, I was standing on a baseball mound and looking, and their batting was Chief Gardner. I grew up with Chief Gardner and his brother. Tradition B, police officer was out on a routine patrol, and he noticed an elderly couple driving by, and in the back, in a minivan in the back, there were some penguins. So he pulls out and he said, "What do you have in the back?" And they said, 10 penguins. He said, "Well, you probably want to take them to the zoo." So they were a little nervous, they drove away. So a couple days later, he's sitting out on patrol, and the same van rides by with the penguins in the back. And he pulls them over, he said, "Well, I thought I asked you to take them to the zoo." They said, "Well, we did take them to the zoo, and they had such a good time that we're taking them to the aquarium."
All right. Janet, yeah, you're stuck following that again.
And all I can say is our meeting for November is coming up on Monday evening. So I'll have a report for you at your next meeting.
Okay. Any other meetings that we should be reporting on here? I don't think I've missed any. Okay. Then that would take us to our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging report.
Sure. Just as usual, being the first meeting of the month, highlight some upcoming events. Obviously, next week is Veterans Day. On November 16th, International Day of Tolerance. November 20th is Transgender Day of Remembrance. And of course, Thanksgiving coming up here at the end of the month. In terms of month-wide observations, it is Native American Heritage Month, National Veterans and Military Families Month, and National Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month.
All right. Questions for Mike? Comments from the public? All right. That concludes all our reports. That'll take us to old business. Tonight we have 3 items under old business, the first of which is OB1, Penn State signage ordinance revisions. potential action item. But before we even consider that, I think we have Lindsay, are you going to walk us through the memos in the packet?
Sure. Yes, so in front of you tonight, you have the update since the sign ordinance has been remanded to the Planning Commission. Just a real quick overview of the remand. When the Planning Commission received it, there were 4 options to consider signage. One was the township-wide amendment to increase signage for these types of entertainment event venues across all zoning districts. The second would be to be UPD specific with our changes. The third is a hybrid amendment, which actually we've picked. And the fourth option was the do nothing option. The Planning Commission's review, at their first meeting, they had a lot of public comment. That included some concerns about visual impacts on nearby residents. Excessive signage could detract from the community aesthetics. They highlighted the conservative nature of our existing sign code and talked about how increases and how the signage should be content neutral. Then the Planning Commission met a second time and decided that the ordinance will apply township-wide, but specifically regulates only stadiums, arenas, and event centers. They did make a slight change to the definition for stadium and allowed signage to increase 10% for each 5,000 person occupancy, not to exceed 150%. The staff's recommendation at the time was 100%, so they upped that. And then ultimately the Planning Commission made a recommendation. The council approved the ordinance based on the recommendations that we just discussed above. There is a proposed draft that was included with your memo. It's just an overview here. It's applicable to township-wide stadiums, arenas, and event centers with an occupancy exceeding 5,000. Definitions for arena, event center, and stadium were updated and incorporated. The signage permits an increase of 10% and allowable signage per the 5,000 occupants not to exceed 150% of the base sign allowance. And then finally, illuminated and digital signs. No increase beyond the base allowance. Illumination is restricted to defined time frames, including illuminated and digital signs in the UPD. We have to include them because currently they're only permitted in commercial and industrial zoning districts. So those are the overall changes that we made that you'll see in the ordinance that's attached with your memo. And we're here for however you want us to move forward. That can be more information here, take it back and bring it back to you. And then if you feel so inclined, you could also schedule a public hearing tonight if you feel that everything is ready to go.
Okay, let's tackle this in 2 halves, try to. With the first being discussion around the recommendation to pursue option 3, the hybrid amendment, because I think if, so much of the detail then that's in the ordinance is tied to that approach. I think we need to iron out some consensus on that approach first. So thoughts, Susan, why don't we start with you on the choice to go with the hybrid and the general approach?
Okay. First, I appreciate the work that PC did in their discussions and also that staff has done on bringing us this proposal. I thought about this. I'm not opposing any move towards change and improvement. My concerns are maybe higher level, that I'm concerned about the impact of visual clutter, visual pollution. Also, some concerns about artificial light at night exposures. Looking at it from a public health perspective, which is maybe a little bit different. But But, you know, a lot of the medical literature does show, particularly with signs that are lighter, that there are long-term cardiovascular implications with changes in circadian rhythms. And it's not clear to me. I know that we go to a separate chapter of the code in terms of regulating illumination and how that's done. So, you know, my concern is that there's potential for more illumination, different kinds of illumination. I don't know that I completely understand that, and I don't know that Penn State knows exactly what they're looking to do. But is that something we need to consider in terms of best practices and how illumination would be monitored, both in terms of lumens and brightness, but also in terms of the type of color that's illuminated on signs, blue versus orange. So there's some science behind this, and so, you know, where that could potentially fit into a consideration as we look at this, because I do think that this is broadly changing the ordinance, which would possibly and potentially include opportunities that we might want to consider now to think about in terms of future impact, because we do see, you know, I don't know the measurements, but the artificial light illumination is striking, and that there is the potential for that to get worse. And I think too, the medical literature is not as clear on the medical impact, the long-term impacts of what's now being called visual clutter or visual pollution. But there are mental health impacts and other health impacts. So when we're talking about this, I was thinking about when you're looking at the panorama of, you know, just the area. We have the two largest landscape features, which are Mount Nittany and also Beaver Stadium. So if the ordinance has been somewhat conservative in the past and has limited the impact on the exterior of Beaver Stadium as far as a landscape feature that affects how people see the panorama, where would there be potential to maintain that in a way that maintains a lot of the purpose of the ordinance, which talks in the beginning of the ordinance about promoting public health, safety, and welfare. So those are my comments looking at it from a broader perspective, and certainly from the public health perspective. So.
Okay. I've noted a few of those. Rich?
Signage is always fun. Most people want as much as they can get, and it can be the Wild West. Growing up in State College, you think about the north side of town, how that was before, and then the pendulum swung the whole way back. That they didn't want that, or Altoona is another example. But I think we're balancing. I'm curious if we were requested to look at this, and I was curious if the requester has looked at these proposed and how that fits in on what they might have thought.
Any other comments? I'm going to try to group these all together so we can get through this as efficiently as possible. Tracy?
Rich stole one of mine, but that's okay.
All right, so I put a plus next to that one.
And then I guess my only comment or question would be how, if implemented, how it would be enforced.
All right. So what I've heard so far, enforcement, I think what we would like from staff, I think everyone would agree, is just some reassurances as we browse down through this and reconcile it against some of the other, and it doesn't have to be tonight, where we think we're okay with enforcement. Is there something tweaking in here that we can do to make it easier, things we need to do to not make it so hard. The other thing I heard Susan hinting on, what I didn't hear was anyone necessarily opposed to the hybrid approach, which is good, at least as a starting point. I didn't have a favorite going in, and I really wanted to hear what Planning Commission said, and it appears they took in quite a bit of input from the public, and reached a consensus on this, and I think that's what we asked. As far as, I think Susan also brought up the issue of potentially using a height restriction to maybe mitigate some of the concerns over the, how did you refer to the visual, particularly at night? That's an interesting comment, because my guess is that much of the signage is going to be for the benefit of folks at ground level. So it seems as though it's possible that the Penn State could get a very good return on lower level signage, if that is indeed the intent.
And that would have less of an impact on the
Right,
panoramic view.
it would minimize the impact without mitigating or minimizing the potential, possibly the potential effect. And then the last thing was some maybe assurances or some more information from staff on how our existing regulations, we're going to refer, I guess, to at least 2 other areas of our zoning ordinance where we identify these issues, and making sure that, they do coordinate or work well together. I think that would be a reasonable request, given that we seem to be moving in this direction that makes it a little bit more complicated instead of just a straight-up UPD-specific amendment or a straight-up township-wide amendment.
And I have one last comment. The other comment that I have is related to the interior signage and illumination from the interior of the stadium. The interior is within the walls, but without a ceiling or a roof, there is illumination that does come up from inside the stadium. And how would you gauge the impact of that? For example, looking at artificial light at night, Alan, including, so you sort of have to tease out what's illumination coming from the interior, which is allowed, and then the exterior, if that's improved. So would there be some sort of baseline measurement? I don't really know how that could be operationalized, but I do think it's a health consideration we need to at least discuss.
So that couldn't necessarily be totally answered by staff, right? Mm-hmm. If I understand the question or the request. Mm-hmm. That would maybe require some research on what other similar
open venues,
yeah, impact. So is there anything else as far as taking this approach before we get into maybe some of questions or details of the ordinance itself? Staff? Adam?
Nothing until we get
okay.
to some more specifics.
Lindsay, Mark, anything that you've heard so far that...
I'm just taking down some notes, maybe to look at some best practices, limit the height to combat the visual pollution.
Well, the possibility of it, what the options would be, not necessarily,
right.
if we think that would be effective.
And yeah, Mark and I will work together on these.
If you'd like some responses to how we got to this point,
yeah.
Based on the initial PC meeting, and we had some members of the public come in and spoke, and also some members of the planning commission, that really dictated how this was crafted. There were some very important things. I mean, I think everyone agreed that these stadiums, that's what people expect. I mean, we're the anomaly in this country for a stadium with not much of anything on it. People expect that. It helps direct you where you're going to be meeting your friends, where you're going in. And also in the landscape now too is these places don't survive without those naming rights and some of that money coming in, and that's a very, very key thing that's needed. That's where we got into the increasing, and bear in mind this only covers stadiums, arenas, and event centers. So the Corning building, too bad. The hospital, too bad. The casino, no. So it's limiting it to these these venues that actually where people expect this. Our current sign ordinance does have things in there about light. We govern light trespass. We govern movement on the electric or digital signs, and also nits. And I'm not sure exactly what a nit is. We do have a light meter, and I can measure light trespass. But should we have a problem, we have resources. Oddly enough, it was about this time last year I actually left the meeting early to go measure a light trespass issue with a neighbor dispute.
Right.
Prior to that, I actually made some calls, and we do have available people in the area that we could contract to, and do engineered measurements and make sure things are within confines. Another thing would more than likely mitigate a lot of this concern is what was placed in this ordinance is the illuminated digital signs. First of all, anything they get above and beyond their base allowance, that only the base allowance number is the square footage of illuminated signs they can have. So we've capped their digital illuminated signs to what their base number would be if they put nothing up but digital. And the other thing that was packaged in here was the illuminated digital signs may only be illuminated 12 hours prior to the start of and 12 hours following the conclusion of an event at the venue. That should limit that, and some of this was kind of my thought with, most of you have been to the stadium. As we just dealt with Chief Gardner's retirement, I've worked early mornings there, I've worked nights in those parking lots. I actually think it's a benefit to health and safety if that game ends at 8 o'clock at night, that those things can run till 8 o'clock in the morning, because those lots are still filled with people. It makes it both easier for the police to patrol it, because it does cast light throughout those lots. I think we've touched on these about as well as we can. Are there always unforeseen consequences? There could be, but if we find something glaring, then with the living document, we make the tweaks and adjustments to account for something that we may have not considered that becomes a problem. So I think I've touched on light pollution, how we would enforce it. I tried to jot down to get some answers to some of the concerns. And these are the similar concerns that were presented by some of the members of the public as well as Planning Commission. As Lindsay stated, we initially put this together to cap it at a 100% increase depending on your seating capacity. To get to 100%, you need to have a lot of seats, and we probably will never see that in this township, anything to meet even 100%. There were people that were during discussion, there was discussion about why put a cap on it at all. If we had no cap, the only thing I could see that would ever even exceed that 100% is Beaver Stadium. And Planning Commission actually bumped us from the 100, bumped it up to 150, and there were members on Planning Commission that did suggest, don't put any cap. If someone's willing to build something that big, we want to be able to utilize it and be seen how they want to be seen.
So it's a hybrid approach, but currently it's only impacting, as it stands, the UPD, uses in the UPD. But if there were the opportunity for event centers, stadiums, arenas to come to other places outside of the UPD, this would apply.
Yeah, Adam?
The only comment that I wanted to make is I wanted to pick up on the suggestion about the review of, I think it's chapter 170, where we actually have the light regulations. At the time that we had developed those, which was at least 10 to possibly 15 years ago, I think that we had pretty much identified the state of the art at the time. I do think it certainly is worth the review, given and considering the comments here this evening. We're considering doing something different with signage for these particular uses, for us to take a look at that as well. You know, technology has changed, and I think that it is worthwhile if we're going through this process to evaluate what we do have existing and see if there are additional things that have evolved that would allow us to be able to assist in the regulation of these kinds of signs.
Well, and I think the medical understanding has changed too. So, we are seeing, there's a clear cause and effect relationship now between particularly artificial light at night and long-term cardiovascular risk and development of conditions like congestive heart failure, coronary disease, and increased incidence in heart attacks in people who are exposed to more artificial light at night. I know we don't have a lot of, densely populated neighborhoods around the stadium, but I think we need to think about it in terms of public health. May I ask Mark a question? I was a little unclear on when you said the base and the illuminated signs. I struggle sometimes to follow the whole track. You guys move fast.
Our sign ordinance allows for the square footage, the sign area that you are allowed to utilize is based on the square footage, gross floor area of your structure, your building, whatever. So,
and that's all the horizontal space. There's multiple stories in Beaver Stadium.
With the stadium, their playing field, because that's all usable stuff. Every aisle where the seats are, the 4 levels of the suites and the 4 levels of anything that is gross floor area within that structure, we would count. So that's how we determine how much signage you can have, is based on your square footage. And as your size of your building goes up, your percentage of increased sign goes down. Right now, if your building is up to 4,500 square feet, you get 1 square foot of signage per every 30 square feet of floor area. Above 4,500, it goes to 1 per 300. And I'm not sure what the cutoff is, but then when it goes to the next level, it's 1 per 3,000 square feet of floor area. So the bigger the building, it drastically reduces.
So the ratio of signage to the building itself becomes smaller.
Yes.
Just to add to what Mark's sharing there, I think it's important. Let's use the extreme. Beaver Stadium is, I forget, it was some million square feet of gross floor area. That allowed 940 square feet of signage. So you figure the sheer magnitude of Beaver Stadium, and that's a reflection of the conservative nature of the sign ordinance. So you're always kind of, that's your base level, and that you're restricted at that point. And then these 10% increments based on seating, I actually thought that was pretty brilliant how they, both Mark and Lindsay crafted that. So for every 5,000 seats at Beaver Stadium, you're going up, 90 square feet of signage. And they quickly cap out at that 100 at 50,000 square feet, or 150 gets them to about 70,000 square feet. But you're always restricted by that base allocation, and that's what keeps it in check. So even the discussion around completely uncapping the regulations, you're always restricted by that, and then your seating capacity. So for Beaver Stadium, I'll use round numbers. If their base is 1,000, at the next 100%, they're at 2,000, 150. They're at 2,500. The max they could get is 3,000 square feet under the foundation that has been built with the ordinance changes.
All right. 2 quick questions then from me. Who determines capacity? Is that a code?
That's seats.
Okay. And
that is seats for stadiums, arenas, event centers. It's based on per occupancy seats.
Okay. And that's
we should probably clarify that, and that's what.
Yeah. That's
actually what picked that up from another ordinance somewhere out of California that did something
Because some places have standing room. There's all kinds of ways to move, and I'm just asking that. I don't have a
Yes.
suggestion or any concerns. I just want to know,
Good point.
you know, what we're going to do.
We probably should tweak that to 5,000. I'm interpreting this as seating, but it probably should be clarified.
Well, I think the chance to run into trouble is around the 5,000 number. If somebody wants to manipulate that to be below or above it, we need to have a pretty solid,
I mean, one easy way to perhaps do that is fixed seating.
Yes.
You know,
And that would be really
The
easy to
seating will
just
be the
tweak.
lower number.
Just to
that
tweak
have
that in there.
Potential.
okay. It seems as though there's comfort around this approach. If we can, I mean, we got some feedback tonight that addressed some concerns. We may want to move forward with a bit more clarification or assurances based on whatever we get into in the next discussion. Am I reading the room right here? Adam?
I did have a question, and you mentioned it, you picked it up from Susan's comments. Excuse me, the question is, would you like staff to do anything with respect to height in terms of, you know, as data for council to consider, you know, the height of signage that would be allowed under this ordinance, those types of things. And for clarity and a little bit of history, you know, for many, many years, our sign ordinance was capped at 25 foot. Signs could not be above a 25 foot from the average,
Yes.
whatever, the grade, the average grade of the building or the facility. It was 25 feet. Well, that was very limiting. And that has since been lifted. But I don't know that we have any restriction at this
It's
particular.
to the top of the building. It cannot go above the top of the building.
But to address the concerns that I thought that I heard this evening, one possibility might be to consider excluding some portion of a building of certain height relative to signage. But that's a question from me to council, if that's something that you'd like staff to invest some time to explore.
Thoughts?
I would.
What we're talking potentially about is not lowering the number, but just limiting the area from which the...
Would you like to see a tweak? I mean, currently to keep this more in line with what our current ordinance is and kind of work better with our current signs, to also wherein we're capping the illuminated signs to only the base square footage, also cap the height of the signs beyond a certain height to only the base, and that would blend closer with our current ordinance. I mean,
Personally, and it's a personal opinion here that I'm expressing. I don't see any magic in restricting the use of illuminated signs even to just the base necessarily, or only allowing it in the base. But that's, I mean, we don't do that now with illumination.
Well, you know, if Beaver Stadium were allowed to have 900 square foot of signage, they could illuminate all of it and put it all at the top of the stadium.
Right.
So what we've kind of done with the illumination part in this is, okay, you have your illuminated, because one of our concerns was the light and the light pollution, that you're capped at that base number for your illuminated. And then...
All right, how about something then, just a review and recommendation from staff that just closes that loophole to what you think is reasonable and tolerable. I don't have a suggestion, nor am I particularly, concerned about any of this other than putting all 900 feet at the top. I could understand that not looking, that that really not being within the spirit of what we're trying to do, but somewhere in between that and what we have now.
Yeah, and I think, trying to think of exactly how I was trying to phrase it.
So just maybe some thought and a potential threshold for closing the loophole. That's all I'm going to say, closing that loophole that you identified. If you even want to call it a loophole. Because right now, any business can do that, right?
Yes, and you will see Mount Nittany Medical Center or Mount Nittany Health across the top of the hospital. And I think that's a great thing. If someone's looking for the hospital, they're going to find it easier when it's up high where you can see it.
Yeah, but
We actually had a discussion of that one time.
Yeah, we did.
Even for the big H.
Yeah, the blue H, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So,
All right.
there was
Are we far enough along that we can move into the details here? Questions about the details? Rich?
I guess my question was kind of about the details, so.
Details. Okay. Then let's do that. I don't think we're going to move forward. It doesn't sound like there's comfort with setting a public hearing, or at least beginning to advertise this specific ordinance tonight, but it doesn't sound like we're far. So as far as the specifics that are in there, and we already covered a couple of them, are there any others that you want to draw our attention to in the ordinance itself? Anything particularly different from what we're doing in other places, or that raised questions or comments through the review process of Planning Commission?
Yeah.
Anything you had to make judgment calls on in there that you want staff to, council to weigh in on?
So, section 3 on page 2 in your ordinance regarding electronic or digital signs. Any electronic or digital sign associated with stadiums, arenas, and event centers may be exempt from the above display time regulations if the display or message is facing a public street during a time that that public street is closed to through traffic for purposes related to the event. It's just kind of more, what are your feelings on that? So that, I mean, typically you can't have a sign that's changing all the time when you're driving by because it's distracting. But if the road is closed, we would permit it.
Yeah, and that's what this display time regulation refers to. Our ordinance. It says there's a set amount of time each image must be displayed. Nothing may move. They can't change quickly. They have to, depending on the speed limit on the road, it's got to be, this message got to be there for 10 seconds, 15, however many.
Right.
Penn State did allude to one thing they're considering is a little video board on each side of the stadium, just to allow the fans in the tailgate areas to watch the players run through the tunnel when they're coming in and things of that sort. But it kind of morphed to the fact that there's probably going to be, the Gatorade player entrance or something else fixated with that. To aid in that, I mean, our current ordinance does not allow any motion on these electronic digital signs that are facing any roads. And we figured if they're closing Porter Road, let them turn on their video board. Or Curtin Road, when those games are, when those roads are closed, the whole reason for the static display and the limit, the time required per display is to stop the distraction. If there's no traffic, I think that allows, and it also, I gotta say, enhances the fan experience too.
Any objection to that? I mean, the road's closed for the, hours before the events there and hours after.
And how far away? I mean, is that something where the size of the sign again would, transmit that motion to say Park Ave where it is still open? How are those considered? I know that it's, you know, the time, the amount of motion or the time interval between the change in motion is restricted by the speed limit on the road that would be close enough to it, but it doesn't address anything about the distractibility at a further distance. So it's adjacent, but if, you know, people are on Park Avenue or on, you know, 99, would they be distracted? And that might have to do, coming back to your point, Adam, about height. So that actually might be the way to allow for that, but without increasing the risk to drivers that are at a further distance. Because really from 99, you don't see the lower portion of the stadium, but you would be transmitting to improve the fan experience for the people in the tailgates that would be seen. So that's, I do think maybe that even reinforces, you know, the case for some kind of, you know, height requirement or.
At least for those type of signs.
Yeah.
The ones that are moving.
We can
So,
tweak some stuff. Would you like us to take this back to the planning commission and come up with some thoughts, get some feedback from them and then bring it back?
I don't know that we've reached that point so far with our comments. We're not done yet, but that seems like a minor tweak. I mean, we're no one is saying we don't want to allow these.
I think we could easily address those concerns, and, you know, we got where we are today based on concerns addressed by some of the public and planning commission.
Yeah, I feel strongly that staff can basically address some of the questions that have come up at this point without the need at this juncture to go back to planning commission. Certainly that's your prerogative, but I don't necessarily see the ironing out of the details, if you will, necessarily would or should involve the planning commission, but it can.
And again, we're just asking for your thoughts after you think about it. You know,
I think it's reasonable to maybe limit the height on some of those.
Yeah,
and if, can it be done, you know, those kinds of things. All right, Lindsay, anything else in the details?
That was really the only one I wanted everyone council to consider.
All right, then questions for Lindsay or staff on anything else that's in the ordinance? Because we may see some changes to those details when we revisit this, but anything that's not affected by that in here. So we don't have to go back again the next time we see
Rich
it.
had some comments.
Yeah.
Just a question. I mean, our main mechanism of limiting the distraction, intrusiveness, all that seems to be size. But one thing I've noted a lot is when we've upgraded existing lights to LED lights, you get much more bang out of the exact same square footage as you had before. And everything. So is there a lumens or?
Yeah, that goes back to the nits and lumens.
Okay,
and
all right.
And that's in the other chapter in the code, correct?
That is in the chapter 170.
Yeah.
When was the last time we reviewed that in light of all the technology, the changes in technology?
And I will tell you that the existing ordinance language was implemented prior to the proliferation of LED lights.
Well, and
So
also,
before we get off that, just so I don't forget, one of the other things we were asking for is just reassurances on everybody cross-checking those kinds of things, like Rich's question. Just come back with us, say, yeah, we've looked at, you know, how we're going to enforce this how we're going to use these numbers from this other section going forward. And on that subject, normally light trespass is measured at the boundary of the property.
Correct.
Well, there's no property lines up there, so, I mean, it's the whole idea of the UPD, so we're not dealing with specific parcels, it's all one giant parcel, so light trespass is boundary, the place to measure, it's pretty far away, isn't it? I'm kind of asking.
I don't
know if
the term trespass is just not particularly applicable. I understand.
So all I meant was we just need some clarification on that. Maybe that's a thing that we don't even need to worry about here because it's kind of irrelevant you know, as it applies in other zoning districts.
Yeah, the code does regulate these electronic and digital signs facing roads. You take Beaver Stadium, all four sides are roads.
Yeah.
So that would fall in, and there's different, you know, they can be this many lumens in the daytime, but when it gets dark, it's got to back down to this many, because when it's darker, it looks brighter. When it's light out, you need.
So did I hear you say then there will be applicable light trespass issues at the 4 roads,
Well,
even though?
Well, there are limits in the brightness of the lumens and nits.
Built into the ordinance.
Yes.
Okay.
The lumens and nits
Okay.
that can be emitted by these signs based on daylight or darkness. And at night, I think we've all at one point driven by by a location that has one of these digital signs and driven by it at 10 o'clock at night, and it blinds you when you're in your car.
There are different illumination levels for daytime, during daylight hours, and brightness between sunset and sunrise.
Okay.
Built into currently 107,
Yes.
170.
Roll that into the follow-up when we pick this up in
Yes.
2 weeks, Susan?
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that's really important is that it's the brightness of the light that determines the risk. So, you know, independent of things like smoking and other lifestyle, there's a much, much higher incidence of those cardiovascular problems in people with those brighter light exposures. Now, you're right, episodically, 7, 10, 12 times a year, maybe not so much, but we are talking about, we're contemplating a hybrid ordinance that could potentially, you know, apply to an event venue in another in an area where there might be closer, you know, area close to residents, particularly, you know, when we talk about the opportunities in the Dale Summit area with form-based code. So I think thinking about that from that perspective would also be helpful.
All right.
That's not necessarily light trespass, that's actually light exposure, which is different.
Is staff comfortable with what we've asked, the clarifications that we've asked for
I
and
think
potential modifications?
I think we can get something together for you.
All right, well, then I want to say I really appreciate where we started tonight's discussion. I think the Planning Commission and staff did a great job in getting us to where we started the discussion tonight compared to where we could have been. And I will recognize that Julian is on the call, and having heard that, I don't know if you, I want to put you on the spot, if you had any comments or even questions for us before we move on to the next agenda item?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm pulling double duty, switching back and forth between reading bedtime stories and listening to the conversation, but
Yeah, just rub it in that it's 9:30.
I want to say thank you to the Planning Commission and to you all for having this conversation and for the consideration. You know, I just want to reinforce the idea that this is a unique situation, right? Beaver Stadium is one of the 4 biggest stadiums in the world, right in our backyard here in College Township. And so it is something that, oops. Sorry, I think my headphones died on me. And I think, you know, Rich might have mentioned it before, kind of we reviewed the initial recommendation, and I guess we had some questions too, right? Does the total signage, square footage, does that include directional signage, right? Because I think as of right now, we're over 1,000 square feet of signage. I don't have it right in front of me, but so that was a concern, and I don't know what. Again, I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know what the max amount of signage would be under this consideration. But really, what we're looking to do, and I don't think it's any secret, but you know, we want to be able to monetize certain parts of the stadium, right? And being able to put advertisements or more importantly, donors' names and things like that is important for the future and the health of Beaver Stadium. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that and advocate on that behalf. I could appreciate the conversation for the illuminated signage, which I know was part of a conversation earlier, but you know, I don't know if that's our main objective here, as opposed to being able to, quite frankly, put someone's name on the side of the building to try to monetize those opportunities. So that's really all I wanted to say, and happy to answer any questions. Of course, I'm not part of the design team, or I don't have any design plans in front of me, but happy to bring those back to our folks if there are questions to help clarify anything on your behalf.
All right, hey, thanks, Julian. Before we go to that, I think we should add one more, what Julian brought up, and this has come up before, maybe how staff anticipates defining wayfinding advertising. We kind of lost track of that as we jumped ahead, but that was a concern early on.
I've dealt with that since my time here, actually starting back. Innovation Park is a prime example. Every building has its own name. It's the Eric Bernier building, whatever they call it. I made the decision, under my interpretation, is that's not a sign, that's the address.
Okay, so something like that, yes. I think.
And we brought this up in a meeting with Penn State. If it says Gate A, I don't care how big it is, to me that's an address, and that's an important, that's the equivalent to an address. But when you have Gate A, Burger King, then you've changed it from, and one thing that we put in our ordinance when it was revised last, anything signed 3 square feet or less is exempt. So that would allow you to put the Gate A Burger King, the size of a little realtor sign. They could do that. That's an exempt sign, and it does not count.
Okay, so all I was asking for was just to bring that forward so that we have a clearer, and I might add, just having heard that maybe 3 by 3 might be a little bit too small for the Gate A sign.
It's still pretty, 3 square foot's a pretty decent sized sign.
So some context then.
One of the other things I wanted to point out, and some of you were serving probably in different capacities when this occurred, but when the scoreboards went up, there was much angst and concern and consideration that was given to that. And essentially, the decision at the time that was made by council was that the scoreboard signage with the logo are deemed to be exempt. And it was special circumstance, special consideration, and the determination that council made, and what we carried forward there is that the scoreboard signs themselves we have interpreted as a form of art, and we've allowed them to and art is exempt from many of our sign ordinances, our regulations, not all, but many of them. And Mark has had experience dealing with that as well. But I just wanted to point out that it would be, I don't want to say impossible, but it would be exceptionally difficult and would likely not pass review by staff if there were proposed changes to what the scoreboard looks like now, given the consideration that was given and the interpretation that was determined that what's there now on the scoreboard is art.
Okay. All right, I think we've covered enough ground tonight on this. Let's revisit this whenever we think we can prepare it for the agenda. Any specific questions for Julian before we let him finish his bedtime stories? No? Hey, Julian, thanks for hanging in there with us. We'll cut you loose. It looks like we're moving towards something here.
Well, appreciate that all. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great night, and please let us know how we can help continue this conversation forward. So thanks again.
Will do. All right. We are going to conclude OB1 and move to OB2, which is the College Township Municipal Building Space Study. This is potentially an action item, but I will tell you that the action tonight would really be to accept the study. The study is the study. We're not going to not accept it unless we find some fatal flaw in there that they missed. So what I'd really like to do is give staff the opportunity to review it and us to ask specific questions on potentially the implementation or, suggestions in that regard. So who's gonna do this? Mike? Okay.
Yeah. Much like Lindsay, I apologize for being late tonight, and I sat down here because I have a big ticket item for you. But that said, in the interest of time, yeah, that's right. I didn't need Kit tonight. In the interest of time, I'll just kind of skip over some of the background. We've worked with Kimmel Architecture, formerly Kimmel Beaugret, as our consultant to take a look at the building. As you know, this building is 30 years old. We are a growing municipality with a growing staff, and we are starting to bust at the seams. As you walk through the building, you can see it. You can feel it, and it was time to take a look at the space allocation within the building to see if we had enough space to accommodate what we see now and what we see into the future, with a goal of hopefully a plan that came forward and said for the next 15 or 20 years, we're good. Happy to report, working with Kimmel and what they brought back to us, that yes, we're good in terms of space and what we are projecting currently today as to our needs. This has been reviewed not only by the building team, which consisted of Adam, Amy, Shane, and myself, but also our staff has had a chance to take a look at this, provide their comments on a couple of occasions, to give us ideas not only about what they need in terms of individual space, but operationally what we need within the building. So a couple key findings that I wanted to highlight. That was the top level. Within the four walls of this building right now, we're good. We can make it work. That's what the design shows. Couple key factors in that is some relocation of departments within the building. If not our highest customer interaction department, it's number 2 in that vein is our finance department, which is currently here on the second floor of the building. From a pure customer service perspective, that's a bit of a disservice to the customers long term. We're chasing folks upstairs, having them jump in the elevator or climb the steps to come up and pay their tax bills, pay their water bills. So one of the findings early on was that finance and tax and water need to drop to the first floor. In doing that, what do you do with the folks that are in at that level? Engineering and public works would elevate to the second floor to make the space needs work. Currently off to your side here on the other side of the building is a storage area that's not fit out. We need to use up some of that space and fit that out as offices for the future. That's envisioned as the public works side of the house, and where finance is today would be engineering. In terms of project cost, you have 2 spreadsheets attached with your agenda tonight. The overall cost estimate range is $1.84 million to $2.72 million. And that contemplates a couple things. It's a pretty comprehensive evaluation. It does contemplate furniture. This is very much a furniture heavy type of redesign. As you know, in our fit out offices, we have a lot of cubicle walls, and that's moving those out, getting something new in there. Fitting out spaces that, for you that have worked in the library that we call it downstairs, our middle size meeting space, fitting that out as actual office space and trying to find ways to accommodate smaller meeting spaces within the building. So also contemplated in those cost estimates, as I mentioned, you have 2 spreadsheets. One deals with a no phasing, and what that means is basically during the time of construction, that we would vacate this building and give it over to the contractor to fit out the buildings without the conflict of having us here on site. The phased version obviously is do that occupied, and that contemplates a floor-by-floor renovation. We would most likely start on the 2nd floor and fit the 2nd floor out, move everybody downstairs while that fit out is happening, and once the 2nd floor was done, we would bring everybody upstairs and fit out the 1st floor. That phased approach results in a higher cost estimate, as you can see in your spreadsheets. In terms of the overall construction time frame, they're estimating a 6 to 12 month construction time frame. If we're unoccupied and no phasing, it's a shorter time frame because they don't have to work around us, to be honest. You're looking at somewhere in a 6 to 8 month time frame for that type of a fit out. If we're on site, they think it's more of a year long exercise. I have the plan up here in front of you and really wanted to get to that point of getting your feedback and your thoughts, things you're seeing. Are there any fatal flaws that you've noticed in some of this design, and have that discussion. The consultant wasn't able to be here with us tonight, but they're certainly welcome or interested to come back if you have things that you need to talk about or any feedback that you need to have them weigh in on. But outside of that, if you like what you see, then the appropriate action is to accept the study for what it is. And in doing so, what Adam and I would be looking for is a signal from council that is us moving to the next step, putting this into the budget for consideration in 2026. Again, recognizing it's a pretty large item and a pretty large lift, but that said, that's the signal that ultimately we're looking for. So I'll step back and hand it over to you for questions.
Thanks, Mike. If we're going to do that tonight, there's a several hundred, approaching $500,000 difference between the 2 approaches. Are you looking for direction from council there, or is there a staff preference between those 2?
I think it's a bit of a deep dive at that point. I think conceptually be interested in what your thoughts are on that. And then there's a lot of moving pieces associated with, particularly if you're looking for a no-phased or an unoccupied building. What does that mean? Well, we're going off-site and we're trying to find a location that accommodates us. So there's moving parts, but I think it'd be worthwhile discussion.
Yeah, and before jumping to that conclusion, your thoughts are really critical.
So when you say our thoughts,
about a total relocation.
Yeah. Now, okay, I see what you're saying there about the day-to-day operations. And I imagine we have some thoughts, but I think it would be important to hear from staff, what they think about continuity of operation should you have to move off-site, because I think that would be a factor in our...
My opinion is that I think that we should phase this. I don't think going off-site makes an awful lot of sense. I think that you have the cost that would be involved of finding a place to be off-site, and I think that you have the difficulty of identifying a location that would actually be in College Township to move off-site to accommodate the staff. So I think realistically that, while it is appealing from a price point, I don't think that is a workable solution. I think that we're kind of driven by those factors to the phased approach.
Just adding to that, either approach. I would tend to agree with that. The logistics of trying to find a space, there's a cost obviously associated with that. Making that space work, you'd have to do some fit out. Makes it, if not equal, more costly in the long run. Either approach, there's going to be some pain. Because if we are going floor by floor, what's tight downstairs now gets really tight downstairs, and vice versa. When as we move upstairs, staff's going to be still pinched to one floor, and honestly, I would contemplate the utilization of this room as office space during that 6 months or whatever it would take to renovate the downstairs. So either option presents pain in terms of day-to-day operations, but then of course the cost factor is a critical piece as well.
But it's clear that now that staff's preferred approach is the phased approach.
I think that's the most
Senior
reasonable.
management's preferred approach is the phase approach.
Well, those are important data points as we open up this discussion. So having heard that, Rich, what do you think?
I'm glad to hear that you said that. The phased, yes. Because you use up any savings. I mean, it would be nice to get it done faster, but you'd use up any difference in cost, plus some, I'm sure. So, no, I thought, I like the plan. I like this kind of stuff. Might play in this world a little bit and everything. I have a couple thoughts on the plan. I didn't know if you wanted those.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
No, the big thing, the simple thing was in your large conference room, I think you need a staff entrance to that room from the backside, and it also serves as an egress if needed, and everything. The number of small conferences are nice. They can be converted to offices or whatever like that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really phase that. The big things that I was looking, I think just at a glance, your tech investment or allowance is probably low, and you should make the investment while you're doing this to take it up, fiber now versus later. I don't know what your security and access, what you're contemplating there. The other thing that isn't clear on this, HVAC is always the one that this is the time to do that, and because your units are all old and everything like that.
Well, yeah, and that's the one area that we did want to talk to council about. The intent or the direction that was given to Kimmel Architecture. You'll see that there's more closed or doored office space here. But what we specifically requested of them was not floor-to-ceiling walls, okay? The doors on offices can be very effective. They don't need to go the entire way to the ceiling. We were hoping that that would minimize reconfiguring of a lot of HVAC. That said, the building is 30 years old. And Amy can speak to the fact that, is it the air handlers or, yeah.
It's our individual.
Yeah, there's some issues that are starting to crop up, and we don't know precisely, I mean, we have an idea, but we don't know precisely what those issues are.
Right.
And then one of the considerations here is that perhaps we actually need to have, now that we have an architect's drawing to work from, that maybe it makes some sense to have an MEP in here to take a look at some of what these other related issues may or may not be.
Yes, and then you're going to invite code, and code is going to tell you that the criteria have changed a lot from when you built this. And so once you start playing in the HVAC, they're going to interject themselves into the discussion.
Well, so, and that becomes an area where we really need some guidance in terms of what do we do. Now, clearly, replacement of A with B is generally not a major code issue.
Right.
Okay. And we were trying to avoid major cost and major code issues because, as you know, major code issues lead to more major costs.
Right. Your two biggest things that you're going to run into probably are the energy code,
Okay.
the requirements of the energy code, and then the air exchanges. That the requirements for that has gone up a lot, just in the past 10 years, let alone the past 20 or 30 years. So that's where a lot of these projects, you know, when they start getting into the nitty gritty, boom, here comes these costs and everything. So you just gotta be careful about those and everything. But yeah, I mean, your goal is less hallways, less, you know, overused or underused space and everything. Getting the finance and tax stuff downstairs makes complete sense. Those weird engineers, send them upstairs. Yeah, away from the public. You know, so, and entrance to your meeting, your conference room directly off of, you know, shortest path in there just makes complete sense too. Manager getting a smaller office, I'm all about that.
Right, there you go.
But no, there's a lot of great stuff. And it's nice that the building allows, you know, this dated a building. I mean, most people would have to, oh, we need a new building. You know, here you're just changing the guts, and that's great. There was a note in our consent agenda, somebody talking about the third floor and everything. We already talked about that previously. That's not an option.
Yeah, and I think it's worth expanding on just a little bit. Whenever we did the renovation, probably now, anybody have any ideas? It's been 15 years since we've done the renovation for the Alpha downstairs, the substation?
Yeah, about.
Okay. So 15 years ago when we did that, we had an extensive investigation of the potential to actually put an additional third floor on, or an additional floor on this building. Because originally it had been designed in order to do that. It was at that time, the code had changed, and in particular, believe it or not, the earthquake code, portion of the code, had changed sufficiently to render that option moot. It just isn't possible without extensive and excessive renovation to various portions of the foundation. So while that had always been entertained prior to that time as a potential option someday, it became very clear 15 years ago that that was no longer something that we could even consider. So I certainly appreciate the correspondence that we received earlier this evening from a former member of council, and I think that they did a wonderful job with the building as is here currently, and the interior and our ability to even pursue some of these renovations. But the addition of the third floor just is not practical at this stage.
Anything else, Rich?
No, like I said, I think it's a very workable plan. I think as you put meat to the bone, you're gonna find some other money, maybe some savings somewhere, maybe. The only thing in the renovation plan, well, it says no phasing, but it might be beneficial if we could have this floor plan that shows the areas of minor, moderate, and heavy. You know, where are we spending all this money? You know, that might be beneficial if they could provide that. Because it looks like you're retaining a lot of the existing structure.
All right, is that within the scope of what we hired them to do some color coding or something?
I don't think that would be too much of a...
They won't have any problem doing that.
All right. Susan?
I agree with phased approach. I think the plans look good. I think Rich's comments are good. No
Tracy?
other-
Yeah, I would agree. I just, with knowing that you guys want to do the phase option, this is just curiosity. There's nothing with that. Would you want to do the bottom or top first? What would be your
I did have a quick conversation with the consultant about that, and yeah, they were thinking to do the second floor first, because you have to fit out this room to get the space to move folks around. I'm sorry, fit out the storage room, not this room. But yeah, they would do this floor, at least that's initially how they envisioned it, do this floor first. That way, you have a place to move to when it's time to do the bottom floor.
Gotcha. And then, that was it.
Same here. I do want to note that the gentleman that you referred to is a former council member. And, kudos to them back then for designing the building for that option. So I think he should be commended for that. Lloyd Neiman, will go on the record, former College Township Council member who was on council when the building was designed and built. So, yeah, glad to hear about the staff's support for the phased approach. As someone who built a building, extensively remodeled that building twice, then tore it down and built another building. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time working off-site during those, and it was the only option at that time, but there were costs and impacts unanticipated at the time that we just had to eat. Here, we have that choice, and we can avoid those by, and honestly, the difference isn't that great when you start to factor in the cost of space. So, good job. Rich and I had good luck with these folks at COG, project they did for COG, and I think they've lived up to those expectations here.
Still doing for COG.
What's that?
Still doing for COG.
I'm still working for COG.
We've moved past them. Yeah.
All right, then, as far as action goes tonight, if we at least can get a motion to accept the study, I think that would help us move forward. And if within that motion, staff feels that we need to endorse the phased approach, we could do that too. All right.
The only other item that we were seeking some guidance on is we have a plan, there are still details, but when?
Well, we're going to schedule a budget work session soon.
Eventually.
Would it be helpful to know?
We're running out of year.
Know staff's thoughts on absorbing the impact of this in
It's
the
going
next?
to require additional borrowing. I mean, there's just no question. There's no way to finance this out of current cash or revenue receipts.
So then that kind of makes it easier or harder to say when?
Well, it's really when the bulk of, I think you have two options. I think that you could, for example, you could suggest that you could recommend tonight to place this work plan in the budget for 2026. Or you could even recommend spreading that overall cost over 2 years. It doesn't change a lot. We're only going to do one borrowing. But it may in fact, provide some degree of budget relief depending upon the type of borrowing that we end up doing, whether it's a bond or a bank loan, that kind of thing.
It seems like it's going to follow some of our road projects, our sidewalk projects, or whatever. We got the design and engineering side, and then the construction side. It's going to cross over a couple budget years, and then the financial side we'll have to put in there. Mr. Bernier will pay for it.
All my money's going towards that building in Innovation Park.
Oh.
That's right.
You got your name on that. You got your name on that.
I can't afford anything beyond that.
I don't blame you.
All right, well, we have consensus. We're willing to accept the plan. We endorse the phased approach. If we wanted to move on this, the appropriate action, as soon as possible or as soon as feasible, the appropriate action then would be to,
Start building it into the capital improvement plan.
yes,
Okay.
for next year.
Okay.
Which,
So we'll focus on the CIP for next year to embed this. What that may do, if we're committed to moving forward, what that may mean is that there still may be some 2026 budget funds for the actual design work that would lead up to that. So if, again, I'm just trying to lay out what I see as some of the elements that we're going to have to address here. But certainly in the 2020, what would be the 2027 to 2031 CIP, we could account for the building itself, but to have a jump on things, we could definitely undertake some of the design work now. I mean now in 2026. And be working through that element of the project, if that sounds reasonable to council.
Yeah, I mean, they're showing soft costs topping out around 140,000, so that's much more edible out of it and everything. You might even be able to pick up some of the FF&E.
yeah, and the need exists now.
Yeah, has existed.
Right, for some time, so, you know, just moving forward with action tonight, we're still are a year or so ahead of, behind actual work.
Yeah, I think that's a
Okay.
very adequate approach to something that's a very big ticket item.
The key to accepting the study is so that you can pay Kimmel, is that correct?
Yeah, yes, I mean, I think, yeah, we paid the consultant to deliver this product, and we typically, when we do those types of things, just as we did with the
Local impact.
thank you, the local impact study. Yeah, we've accepted this study. We recognize that the work that was done was per scope, and that we're satisfied with it.
Okay, then, if there isn't need for any further discussion, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the study, to, with the endorsement of the phased approach, and third, to authorize the manager to get to work planning this project.
It's about time.
Right? Which we know will be delegated to the assistant manager, but either way, we're covered, right?
So moves.
Is that a motion? All right, I got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? This is an action item, so I'm open the floor to questions or comments from the public. Seeing none. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. That concludes OB2. That takes us to our last old business item tonight, which is OB3, and I think in the spirit of getting through this as quick as possible, how about Lindsay, are you going to walk us through this? No,
Yes.
Mike. Lindsay, I'm sorry. If we could just take these one at a time and check them off,
And
instead of
that's-
going through the whole memo?
Yep, that sounds like a plan. This, I feel like, is going to be similar to what we just discussed at signs. Okay, so proposed ordinance amendments. This is coming back to you after the Planning Commission saw the remand letter. The remand tasked the Planning Commission with reviewing the matrix of proposed ordinance changes, considering the rationale behind each amendment, and then providing a formal recommendation to council. Tonight's goal is to review the Planning Commission's recommendation and consider any additional information that's provided to you tonight that the Planning Commission brought up through their discussions or that we have found since the Planning Commission's meeting. Overall, the Planning Commission's recommendations were aligned with staff's recommendations. So the first one in the summary of key topics and recommendations on page 2 is include a threshold for traffic impact studies. Currently, we don't have a threshold. We require a report, but we don't have a threshold. I did speak with our traffic transportation engineer, and he just asked me to add a clause in there that says 100 trips or as directed by the township engineer. So I figured that was a good clause to stick in there. But the planning commission was happy with it, and I feel that if we added those that extra sentence in that Nick Schaefer provided, that this should be a strong recommendation into our subdivision and land development ordinance.
All right, let's tackle that one first. Just clarification, Lindsay, the 100 trips or recommendation by the township engineer, is that something we would determine now, or is that we're going to flip between those two on a case-by-case basis?
On a case-by-case basis. So that or would just be built into the language in the subdivision ordinance.
Okay, so just so I understand, the township engineer could request a traffic impact study on something that generates 25 trips.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have some other things in the ordinance too that allows, per the township engineer.
This falls under the category of you cannot anticipate every situation, and there are going to be some types of development that have significantly less than 100 trips a day that could have very significant impacts depending upon its location and access and things. So.
Just, yeah, no, I don't necessarily disagree. I just want to understand that. I mean, all the traffic could be at peak.
Yep.
And, that's just one example, so, okay. I mean, that's good for us. It's good language for us, I think. All right, questions on that, so we can get through that one, understand what it is that we're moving forward with? Okay, then let's tackle number 2, parking reduction option.
Okay, so as requested, we did take a look. The proposal is to allow developers to reduce the amount of required parking up to 25% if they work with CATA to give free bus passes to the residents or employees of that development. Currently, we do offer several parking relief mechanisms within the zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission recommended that this provision be included there but be optional, not mandated. And then they discussed the applicability of how this would work if when we adopt the hybrid code in Dale Summit, which we wouldn't apply this in that case because the parking, as you'll see in the next few weeks, the parking reductions have already been kind of considered with there. We did ask our transportation engineer to take a look at other places that do this, and some of them are between 0 and 40% reductions based upon the bus service. And where we're proposing with the 25% is consistent with what the type of service is, at least that we have out in this area.
Okay, clarification then, there's some science behind the 25%, this came up last time.
Yeah.
And this would apply everywhere except form-based code.
Right.
All right, okay. Questions, comments, concerns? Looks like we're a go there.
Okay, thank you. Next, energy generation facilities. Currently, this utility facilities are permitted by conditional uses in the forest, the ag, rural residential, single family, 2-family, multifamily, and general industrial zoning districts. We have an existing definition, and we recommended that this use be continued as a conditional use, but we should change the definition to include the sentence or include reliable energy generation facilities with a nameplate capacity of 25 megawatts or greater and any associated facilities. That would kind of cover these new energy generation facilities, and then attaching them as conditional uses allows us that extra timing that we would require for public input and public notice.
Amongst other things that it would give us. Right?
Yes, exactly. Like the benefit of adding reasonable conditions. So the Planning Commission was fine recommending this as a conditional use.
And I will only note that this is preemptive action that's being considered by council this evening, because there's been some movement to force municipalities to accept these facilities, or to limit their ability to review some of these facilities by the state legislature.
And on that line, you don't think adding the conditional use is going to affect?
No, in fact, they're currently in the drafts that are being circulated of that legislation, the exception is being made for conditional use in terms of allowing for significantly increased amount of time for review. 120 days for conditional use versus 30 days for use by right.
So they're thinking conditional use gives the public and the process more time, not worried at all about the additional control or requests that the municipality could make as part of the conditional use.
Don't think that they considered that myself.
Okay, good. I'm good. I'm good with that. All right. Thoughts, questions? All right. Lindsay, it sounds like we're go there.
Okay, that's great. Number 4, we'll get to data centers. Data centers are currently a permitted use by right in the general commercial, office commercial, and general industrial. We do have an existing definition for data centers. The Planning Commission recommends that we include this use as a conditional use, but also there are additional staff proposed revisions, including definitions, to add these definitions of data center and data center accessory uses, and then possibly some additional considerations like lot size, bulk area requirements, building facades, buffering, landscaping, and things like that. And currently there's no supplemental information that goes along with data centers that we have in our current ordinance, but there are a lot of educational opportunities out there and a lot of literature that municipalities in Pennsylvania are putting out, just, for possible model ordinances and just what you can include into your ordinances to make it, protect the township a little more from these data centers. They also do take up a ton of extra infrastructure and water, so there's a lot of concerns there that we would have to consider. So this one is a little, could use some more information. We could move it forward. The Planning Commission was happy with the conditional use, but this is just for council to consider if you want to add those additional supplemental information in there.
Questions for Lindsay on that one?
This is another whatever word I used before, action in the face of pending or potential legislation from the legislature.
I'm having flashbacks to wireless communication
facilities. And my only comment here, I think it's important that we have something on the books as soon as possible relative to this. Not that I'm particularly concerned about one of these facilities showing up within the boundaries of College Township, but certainly some type of an accessory may very well spill in. I just think taking the extra time to do the extra research on the extra provisions, if it's conditional use, it's a conditional use. And I think that the council has had enough experience in working with conditional use that they're certainly capable of addressing these items without having to do the research for the ordinance itself.
Thoughts on that? No? None? I agree with that.
So it becomes a pending ordinance when we schedule the public hearing? Is that correct?
Yeah, as soon as it's advertised.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to me on the surface that conditional use could be used to cover the items identified here.
Yes, and we would incorporate that into the ordinance language and present that to you as we move forward.
All right, so following the manager's recommendation then there, it seems as though we're all in agreement and willing to move forward and use the conditional use tool to address the additional considerations as they come up. And we'll leave it to staff to determine when the appropriate time, if there is an appropriate time then to research them independently. In the event we might want to treat them outside of that conditional use in the future.
Great.
All right, number 5, mobile food vendor permit length.
This one's pretty easy. We just had a weird permit length in our ordinance, 6 months or 6 months. And just to make it consistent with what we have, the Planning Commission recommended updating the ordinance language accordingly to allow that as a 1-year permit, bless you, time, rather than 2 6-month periods.
I see what appears to be consensus around the table. Nobody's jumping up to comment, so you're 5 for 5 tonight.
Great. That's great. Thank you so much.
I don't know that that requires action, right? The action will come when we come back.
Finalize an ordinance.
On the ordinances? Okay.
Yeah, I think that staff has direction enough for formulation of the modifications. At this point, yeah, your action will come later.
Well, if that is the case, then that concludes old business. It takes us to new business where we have one item, NB1, the use of workforce housing capital reserves. Potential action. But before we consider that, I see Misty's here tonight. Adam's probably got something to say on this.
Yeah, actually, yeah, Missy wants to come up. I'll set this up for Missy. She'll be here to answer some questions. But I want to introduce Missy Schoonover as the Executive Director of the Center County Housing and Land Trust. It's the Center County Housing and Land Trust that brings, basically is the reason behind this coming forward to you this evening. We have recently been requested to take a look at a existing or formerly existing LIHTC property that's located in Ferguson Township. It is Sylvan View Estates. It's a 49-unit single-family detached and duplex development. It's located, as I said, in Ferguson Township. It had been in the LIHTC program. It came out of the LIHTC program in December of '24. For the last year, the owner-developer of that original project has been looking to sell that property. Has not found a buyer. Originally approached the land trust about acquisition of this 49-unit complex. But the land trust didn't have the $11 million price tag. Since having those conversations, the developer has identified another local developer that has quite a bit of an experience in working with Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency and being very successful. And this individual has done projects in College Township. In discussions with the land trust, the hindrance at the moment is the lack of what I'll call startup capital to make the investment, to do the studies and the necessary groundwork to lay that groundwork for an application to the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, and is looking for basically seed money in the amount of about $300,000 in order to do that. The land trust believes that this is a very unique opportunity, and Missy will be able to speak to that a little bit more. In terms of the size of a development that is presently, or has been in the recent past, serving a workforce housing, attainable housing population, and that losing that facility would be the equivalent of losing yet another mobile home park in the center region. The request to council this evening is to consider utilizing capital reserve funds that College Township presently has and has had on its books and its budget for quite a number of years now. There's $50,000 of capital reserve money that has been reserved for workforce housing projects. Initially, that money has always been, or I shouldn't say initially, that money has always been assumed it was be targeted for those types of projects within the boundaries of College Township. But the Land Trust believes that this is such a unique opportunity, it deserves some consideration for utilization of our capital reserve funds for this purpose. And the ask is actually not a contribution to the proposed developer, but it would be a pledge of funds to the Center County Housing and Land Trust, who would then manage that that relationship with the developer. So with that, Mary, oh my God.
10 o'clock, dude.
10 o'clock. That's okay, Jim.
Whoever you are.
Hey, Christine, let's hear it.
Well, with that rousing endorsement, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. And as Jim Broombaugh there just said, as Adam just said, this is a unique opportunity. And if you think about it, it's 49 single-family homes, and they've been affordable for 30 years. And when the LIHTC sunset happened on December 31st of 24, what happened was the people that were already there with leases, they're all rentals. Their rents they were told as their rents were renewed, those leases renewed, there would be gradual increases. And I went back through my notes because I went and toured 2 of the homes because I thought, oh, maybe we could buy a couple of the homes, not 49 at once. And those rents for a buy level were going to go from $1,300 or $1,600 a month, depending on the size, because there's some different sizes, to $2,500 a month. That was just the initial step. So for the last almost year, they've been out of the LIHTC protection, but they do still have a little bit of gradual increases. But we do know from talking with the property manager that several of the families have already had to relocate because they just simply could not absorb the increased prices for those. So when you take a look at it, why would we be coming to other municipalities and saying this is a development that's in Ferguson Township? This is a regional problem. We talk about this all the time. Housing is a regional problem in the center region. Ferguson Township to College Township to Patton to the borough. Most people, unless they've lived here as long as some of us, they don't even know where the property lines are. So this is the first time in my tenure, since goes back to the beginning of the discussions of the creation of the Center County Housing and Land Trust, for us to really work again collaboratively and as a region to make this kind of an impact to preserve 49 already affordable, but quickly becoming unaffordable if this particular developer is not able to purchase this. A developer could come in tomorrow, let's be clear, and go to the owner and say, I want to buy Sylvan View, and it could sell tomorrow. So this is all based upon where we are right now. We don't have any agreements with this developer. The Land Trust does not. This is all the preliminary discussions of how can we save 49 homes for another 30 years, or maybe even a little more, I've been told. So that's where we're at. You know, I've been asked this week, what's the agreement? What's the contract? What's this? We are not there yet because we just need to see, are we going to be able to work as a region, as the center region, to support the work to be done to make the application, to get the funding for the purchase and the renovation of those homes. Are they going to remain rentals? Are they going to be owner-occupied? Those are all things yet to be determined. My guess is most of them would still be rentals because that's what the individuals currently are, that's what they like and that's what they have. The role that the land trust would play, those are things to be negotiated, but it would be my strong opinion that we would want to make sure that that land was held in trust under the 99 years so that we know that when we invest and we say that we want to save these homes, we're not saving them for just a couple of years. I can answer any questions with the understanding that we don't have a lot of the details.
Okay. Before we open it up, just a few clarifications. Should this group be successful in doing that, would the rents revert back to what they were, or would they just freeze at what they currently are? How does that work?
That's a great question. And the LIHTC program has terminated. So that had the federal regulations and whatnot that went with it. What we would be looking at is going under the FAIR grant program, which the Land Trust partners with Habitat for that every year. The grants are awarded once a year from the state. They have different regulations that all protect affordability. But unlike LIHTC, the FAIR program allows for a little bit higher incomes to participate in the program. And when I say higher, it goes into our workforce range that your ordinance and Ferguson Township's ordinance covers, at those 80% people that have good jobs but need some help on theirs. So there would be different, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be, in some people's it could be lower, and others it could be a little higher.
So regardless of what it is right now, it would fit into whatever their structure is?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if it took some time to get this done and they experienced another rent increase, they would revert back to whatever, or, okay.
Yep, if they qualified under the income guidelines, then they would revert back, yeah.
Okay. Questions, Tracy? Comments? None? Susan?
No, I think it's a good thing to do. I think it's a good thing to support. You're right, it's regional, we already know that. The only concern I have is it is a pledge and it is $50,000 and there's a lot of unknowns. What would the budget be, and how do we navigate that so that we're responsibly using the money and we know what we're doing. $50,000 is a lot. But philosophically, absolutely support it.
Exactly, I know
in
it's
another
a big
township,
ask.
in another township, but more details would be helpful. Thank you.
Rich?
Yeah, we had a discussion several months ago about properties like this coming off of the
We didn't
roll.
anticipate this one.
No,
but
but it's an example of there'd already been a couple of them and everything, and why it was critical to keep, or the best value to keep them in the program, in some type of program, versus let them fall off the roll. So philosophically, yep, all in. My question was, what is the is 50,000 what we're contemplating pledging? That wasn't clear to me. The big thing, the center region, obviously I would hope that the center region is still part of the county, and the county would see the value in participating in this as well as the home municipality and everything. But this is a regional, and absolutely, it needs to be worked on regionally, and I think we've already shown we'll put our money where our mouth is.
If I may, I also had the opportunity today to speak with the CBICC relative to this issue, and considering the fact that the county economic development plan has basically a plank in there relative to attainable workforce housing. I've sent some of the details of what you received this evening to their executive director for their review and consideration.
If I may, the Land Trust, we really are, we're an organization that was birthed out of grassroots in reaction to the closing of the Malott mobile home community, and the community came together, and the community wasn't just the municipalities, and it was really a lot of different pieces of the puzzle. And I really hope that this can be another one of those, that we can really have the whole community be a part to keep this affordable.
This is good. I think, Missy, you were preaching to the choir here when it comes to making the argument about the value of it regionally. So what I'm sensing here is general support. The $50,000 happened to be a convenient source because it was already set aside as capital, but theoretically, we could budget, we could decide to make a contribution out of something else if we felt. But it seems that it's symbolically important that we make some kind of formal endorsement, if for no other reason that when we start visiting the other potential partners, you've got a non-host municipality willing to do what Rich said and put their money where their mouth is as a starting point. And then if it comes back and those numbers need to be adjusted or we have to firm up more details, so be it, right? That's what I'm hearing, right? I'm going to be kept in the loop as we go, but there doesn't seem to be, from a philosophical standpoint, any issue at all with making the commitment. Am I reading council correctly here? Okay. Would Adam prefer that in the form of action?
Yeah, actually, if you can, and given the fact that this is, well, it's been a time-sensitive issue for over a year, nearly a year now, but just given the uncertainty, I think it would be important not only to confirm that, but also to decide upon whatever figure or value that the council is comfortable with, well, call it what it is, as leverage to go to our other neighboring municipalities and say, we're in, how about you?
And that would just raise the question, is our pledge contingent on those other parties?
Yeah,
If we don't come up with what is necessary to move the project forward, then the pledge is just a pledge that goes away.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful, knock on wood, that doesn't happen, but if it does, as Adam said, a lot of it is, at this point, to help us continue the conversations and leverage, and we can always take a look at those pledges again as other partners come in.
I would also suggest that in the event that the developer in question that would pursue the Pennsylvania, whatever it is.
Housing Finance
Thank you.
Agency, yes.
I apologize.
It's all right, Jim.
In the event that the original ask would come down, I think it would be incumbent upon the land trust to come back and reconfirm your commitment. If suddenly they're found money and not as much as needed, I think it would be apropos to come back and reaffirm that pledge. Otherwise, we're operating under the assumption that it's a $300,000 nut to cover, and that's what the basis of the ask is this evening.
Susan?
Yeah, I philosophically 100%, but $300,000 on what? I get the soft cost, I get the cost, but that's a lot of money to not really, it's a figure we're being handed, and philosophically, like I keep saying, 100%, but to understand how that money will be spent, it's important.
I agree. And we're at this point of gauging interest and seeing, is this something that our municipalities want to be a part of? Before we go in and say, we have interest, now let's look at where did this $300,000 come from? Help us understand to get to that next step. Because there's a lot of things we do not know yet.
Did I hear one of you say 11 million?
That was the asking price a year ago for the estates.
So 300,000 investment to leverage 11 million.
And
to retain.
$50,000 investment to leverage the $300,000 investment, potentially. Yeah. I would suggest, just to get us home before midnight, that the manager has suggested an amount that is set aside for something similar to this as a pledge, contingent, as a sign of a commitment from this township to partner with our other regional partners to move this forward. You know, and that can be adjusted, up, down, whatever, based on what we hear from them. Does that sound like something everyone could support?
Yes.
So all we need now is a motion. I think that was
Yeah, well, the motion would suggest, well, the suggestion is, the proposed motion would be College Township will make a pledge,
yeah, I said pledge, I thought.
right? A pledge of $50,000.
Of up to $50,000.
Of up to $50,000 for the purpose of facilitating the acquisition of 49 units of,
Silverview Estates.
or the Sylvanview Estate property consisting of 40, yeah, whatever, yeah. 40, I'm sorry, I'm losing my,
Yep.
All right. Tracy, did you make that motion?
Yes.
I thought you did, yeah. I have a second?
Second.
Second by Susan. Discussion? Comments before we take action?
Go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah? No?
I
All
think
right.
he just called you Lynn.
Well, closer to midnight, the closer to Lynn I get. All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Missy, thank you for sitting through
Thank
this.
you.
And for everything you do.
Thank you
for
very
this.
much. I appreciate your support.
Thanks, Mary.
All right. That takes us to staff informatives, S1 and S2. Staff have anything beyond what's in S1 and S2 to inform us on?
Nothing more.
Council have any questions on S1 or S2?
Nope.
Then that would take us to other matters. Do we have any other matters? Staff? Council? No? All right, then that would take us to, let's see, adjournment?
So moved.
So moved.
We're adjourned.
Unanimous consensus.